Good morning or good evening if you're stateside. Those were yesterday's comments. G'day, Gary. Good to see you, mate. How are things in your neck of the woods? What happened? Didn't anybody get the message? I did do that impromptu announcement. Last night I had about 44 people. Now I've only got 5. Did they think that I'm just, oh God, maybe they got confused and thought, oh, he's only doing the evening live stream. God, this is going to be quick. I'll be getting through the questions very fast then. G'day, Deborah. Good to see you. At least Deborah's here from Colorado. Where is everyone? God, I feel alone. 2 people and myself. Well, that's interesting. Oh, Tracy turned up. Good to see you, Tracy. I did say the regular live stream is going to be at the regular time. It's only the Eurasian was going to be different. Okay, that's it. I understand what happened. That was only a bit over 1 minute, the announcement. Maybe I should have waffled on for about a couple of minutes just reinforcing that message. That's probably where I failed. People are used to my waffling, so they go, oh, yeah, now I get it, Harry, what you're on about. Well, there you go, my error. Did you say no live this morning? I did not say that. I said not the Eurasian. Remember, we shifted the Eurasian. Doesn't anybody listen to my announcements? I made that announcement video. Everybody just ignored it. Okay. It's going to be a very small crowd, and we'll probably have some stragglers coming in when they realise, oh, Harry's live stream, when they get an announcement 30 minutes later from YouTube. But that's nothing new with YouTube. Lukey, how are you, mate? Great wet season finishing and time to garden. Oh, that's right. Yeah. In Northern Australia, the wet season is coming to the end. It's close to the end. I wonder if plant toxins can be absorbed through my skin. You can try rubbing them, see what happens. Just make sure you take the spikes out. Roy was misbehaving last night. Was he now? I'm not surprised. Yes, he's a bit of a larrikin, He enjoys, a lot of frivolities and tends to be, quite. He enjoys a bit of a spanking. Yeah, he's very much, an interesting character. Let's put it that way. But there you've got somebody serious and tempered with a bit of. I heard you, Harry. Well, somebody did. Yes, I just came back from the farmer's market. I bought myself. I went down with Hello Kitty. She may appear later on because she's gone out doing additional shopping. As I said to her, I've got a live stream shortly, so that's not going to happen. So goodbye. Sent her on her way. So we bought some beef bacon. I actually, because I'm always buying pork bacon, and I've still got pork bacon in my fridge, and I said, because I bought the beef bacon, I forgot all about it. It was right at the bottom of all my stash. And I said, oh, I'll take it out. And I had it actually yesterday. And boy, was it nice, the beef bacon. And so I bought today 2, and then I changed my mind. I think I did it. I think I actually ended up getting 3. That's right, 3. So, yeah. So I got my regular sausages, and I bought 3 beef bacons. So, yes, I'm going to enjoy them. Let's put it that way. Must be the time to for breaking bacon and eggs and halloumi. Sounds absolutely wonderful. Oh, that's right. I forgot. I did go down and we went to one of the stores. I was going to get halloumi as well. That's what I forgot. There's always something you forget. So I've got all the other stuff. I've got eggs. I've got bacon, both pork bacon and beef bacon. But I forgot the damn halloumi. Oh, well, I always forget something. I may have to do that tomorrow. I do have enough time tomorrow anyway. So I'll have to grab some halloumi tomorrow. G'day, Pat. What did autocorrect brekkie? Yes, exactly. It is morning, even in your neck of the woods in New South Wales. Had a sport cheat today. Friend owed me a meal at Outback for a bet he lost. Ate fried onions. I ate a bit of fried pork ribs, fried chicken thighs. Tasty, but I can feel some itch and a bit of acne. You've only got yourself to blame. You know that is fried in seed oil. Oh well, these young men never learn, do they, Tracy? Yes. Oh no, exactly. Oh no. I hope you got a bit of vitamin E into your system. Yes, they will never learn. I had just a pound of lamb, some shrimp, and early dinner with some sheep yogurt with my taurine for dessert. Sounds great. Yeah, I did actually buy a goat yogurt. What was it? I think it was Wednesday. I think could have been Tuesday, or was it's either Wednesday or Tuesday. I can't remember now. Yes, and it was nice. It was nice, but the biggest problem, it had too much water in it. It was, too diluted. So I had some of it and I go, and then basically I brought it home and actually got more of the water content out of it and then tried it, and it was actually really nice. So I will buy it again, but I'll actually try and get the water content out of it and increase the amount. And I think that will make it yummier. Yes. So if anybody hasn't tried, sheep's yogurt is really nice as well. I really miss it, especially the traditional Greek stuff. Oh God. So, and lamb's yogurt, sheep yogurt. When it comes to, I don't know about the US, Deborah, but down in Australia they really don't. I don't know why, they just don't really get it right, which is annoying. So I really miss it. That's one thing that I do miss from the old country. Yes. Yes, very yummy. How did your vitamin D experiment turn out, Harry? Well, it ended up giving me COVID, the initial stuff, the initial part. And then later when I did my fast and vitamin D with taurine and all that, it actually cleared out all the sort of those after effects that I had. But I also consumed quite a bit of protein. So I think I covered myself on the protein side. I did grab essential amino acids as well, and I did use them, and they seem to help as well. So it does seem that it's not enough to do the fast, the reset with the vitamin D and the taurine, but you sort of have to basically add some additional essential amino acids. And I think that where the secret is, as long as the supplemental dose has about 2.6, so how many grams of the essential amino acids, because people buy different products and they have different servings. So the serving must at least have 2.6 grams of of leucine. So if it has 2.6 grams of leucine, you're in the right dosage level for the essential amino acids. And that above your own dietary seems to basically provide well, some of it will probably go to muscle protein synthesis, but not all of it. And because you do, those essential amino acids do work with a whole lot of provide, you're eating a lot of animal foods, you're getting the essential amino acids plus a number of other peptides, plus a number that's shorter strands of amino acid. The proteins is just shorter proteins. They're called peptides, and a number of the other aminos. And as a consequence of that, you end up, it tends to be more prioritized. It seems more of it towards your body tissue. And so when you actually give your body a additional essential amino acids without the other components, it seems it spares some of that stuff for the immune system, more of it. And that's where I think it's sort of, because there is a lot of with the essential amino acids, there is a lot of immunomodulating effects as well. And I think that's where it's actually helping the reset and the immune reset far more. And that's what I found. That's what Luba found as well. There's my friend, and she found the same thing, recovered much quicker by adding essential amino acids. So I think it actually, that's an element that I would add above my reset for, getting COVID and then doing that reset. I would actually add the essential amino acids. They seem to make the difference on top of the other stuff, the vitamin D, the reset and the fasting and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So I may have to pull that video down and actually redo it and add the essential amino acid component to that video, or just add an adjunct and just So that's what I should see in that. No, not branched chain amino acids, essential amino acids. That means because branched chain amino acids is only 4 amino acids. Essential amino acids are all the amino acids that are essential, for basically your body to basically work properly. It's about 9. So you get an extra 5. Yep. Because that's only, what is it? Leucine, isoleucine, valine, and leucine, isoleucine, valine. Yeah, my brain's not working. Anyway, but you know what I mean. So that is the thing. I'm eating tuna in cream sauce tomorrow. Sounds good. G'day, Harut. Sure. Dr. Bridget Briggs says people with CBS mutation can have a hard time clearing ammonia. Isn't that even more of a problem in carnivore diet? If you're getting enough taurine, not an issue. If you're getting enough taurine, you can basically clear. I've actually done a video on ammonia. Just Google my name, ammonia, Serpanos, and I do cover that in a little video that I made. So you'll find everything about it on that one. So that saves me having to do a long 20-minute reply. Okay. My sheep yogurt and cram from Pennsylvania, an Amish farmer. Okay, they probably know how to make far more old style European, sheep yogurt, which will be probably closer to the Greek one. So it'll be much. Is it very like thick and sort of. It's got no moisture. If it's got no moisture, it's really thick, and it's like you're eating like a tart or something like that. It's not like loose yogurt, or if it's really thick, and in that regard, it should be and it's got a like the top. It's got like a layer on top that actually is hardened, slightly hardened. If it has that, it is very much like the traditional Greek yogurt, sheep's yogurt. That is really, really nice if it's like that. I'm very jealous if that's what you're having. Yeah, exactly, Gary. I agree. I don't know why they don't really get it right down here. They try to make it too commercial, too watery. They don't understand. You've got to take the moisture out. You've got to concentrate the proteins and fats. You really have to make it. Yes, and who cares if it costs a bit more, a few dosh more? It's much nicer. I sometimes have to take it home and literally get the moisture out in order to make I don't know why they do it like that, but anyway, it is what it is. Some yogurts are getting goat yogurts with streptococcus. Okay. Oh, look, there are a lot of different things you'll find in different yogurts. It depends on the brand, depends where you're getting it. It's I think we covered that. I did cover that. Yeah, so it's all that sort of stuff. Yes, it is. And I get my sheep's yogurt and cream from, yep, we covered that. Yep. Yeah, he had a cheat meal. Yeah, I know. Not a good boy. He's making himself sick. G'day, Shelley. G'day, Tracy. I think I did. Didn't I sent you a link, Lukey, I think. Didn't I? I think. Just check. I did remember one thing. With this condition, I remember looking at some research. I was going to bring. That's one thing that I actually forgot to mention in Pim's video that I did with Pim. In order to actually prevent this build-up, taurine can actually mitigate that. That's, I think it was, I can't remember whether it's human studies or animal studies. I just can't remember. It's a long time ago, but taurine does help. But a carnivore diet, if you eat a lot of meat, you'll get taurine. It's more of an issue when you're on a plant-based diet, getting plant-based proteins, that it can become an issue, that genetic thing. But it shouldn't be on a carnivore diet in that regard. But if you're worried, if that person's worried, then they can up their taurine, which can mitigate that problem altogether. But I can't remember whether it was a human study or an animal study. I just remembered, but I can't remember exactly. But it does help. But I think even without, you're still getting some taurine from the meat, it still should prevent this problem. But, if the person's really concerned, maybe they supplement a bit just to be on the safe side. I'll leave it at that. Yes. Okay. So where was I? Oh, that one. I tried my own L-Returri, but it didn't work out so well. I think I've fermented it too long, and it's okay. I know the person who's actually really been successful in actually fermenting it properly and actually getting a really good batch was Necro Kitty. She was really good at that. Lukey may know something about it because Lukey talked to Necro about it. So they're actually even better when it comes to basically getting Ruteri in a kefir yogurt type thing. They're even better than me. I'm a bit like yourself. I've done it. I've had some success and I've had some failures doing it. So I'm not that good at doing that sort of stuff. But I know Necro, and I think Lukey may be aware of her technique. So that would be the person to ask. And she's on Bart's Discord. So if you ever get on Bart's Discord, do ask Necro Kitty. She's really good at doing that sort of stuff with probiotics and with kefirs, and actually knowing exactly how to doing the right temperatures and all that and getting it all right. So she's I'd say pretty much, from hands-on experience expert, but from our own hands-on experience, much better than myself or Bart or anyone else out there that I've come across. So Necro's pretty good. Yep. Yes. Bad boy. No, he's not going to die. God, he's going to get basically a bit of seed oil in there that will rip his lipid membranes out and do a few other things and all that sort of stuff. And, so, it's the things that many people do complain for some reason, but I always say that, yes. Anyway, yes, he did. Bad boy. You need to be whipped. I think some of the ladies would love to see that. Curious, it's worthwhile consuming binders like clay or activated charcoal when consuming questionable. It's more when you've been doing it for a very long time, trying to detox and all that. Look, your primary detox is through your liver. That's what's the kidneys and liver doing the detox work. And things like methyl donors, like methionine, taurine, cysteine, those sort of things, choline as well. But they're all in animal food. So if you eat a carnivore diet, you should get enough of that sort of stuff to methylate away a lot of these issues. We sometimes use to get rid of xenoestrogens slightly like supplemental. Some people have got a lot of xenoestrogens, like a lot of compounds. They may have like furniture that they've bought that actually is gassing a lot of smell and stuff like that. And that gassing effect can actually increase the xenoestrogens in your body. So if you want to methylate them away, you either can eat quite a lot of eggs, which will get choline, or you can take a choline supplement, and that will help methylate that stuff away much quicker. So, so there are better ways. Some of this sort of like binders and all that, they can also cause other problems. It's a hit and miss and all that. They do help a bit. I, am very cagey about them nowadays in that regard. There are better ways of just boosting up your system to get it working properly with a species program. You're welcome. Anyway, question, Harry, what do you do for POTS syndrome? It's a person stands up too quickly. Yeah, I know what it is. It's basically tachycardia type thing and all that. And I would say taurine, because taurine normalizes the tachycardia issue and all that. So, and normalizes blood. It regulates blood. Remember, it's an osmolyte. It regulates the blood flow and stuff like that. So things like tachycardia, related issues, and all that. It's the same thing when electrolytes drop too low because you don't have enough taurine, because a lot of people don't eat enough protein. So they don't get enough taurine to regulate their electrolytes. Again, because an osmolyte, it regulates all the electrolytes. And as a consequence, these people get lightheadedness. We know the keto flu, stuff like that. So this is more genetically based, but research, now it's not human-based research, it is rat-based research where they induce tachycardia and stuff like that and correct it with taurine. So I just haven't done a POTS syndrome video. But yeah, that carnivore diet should correct it. Now, unfortunately, some of the people will not consume more meat because they've just been brainwashed. So yeah. So okay, so you basically put her on 4 grams, have you? So you must have seen improvements then. I may have mentioned it before, have I? I can't remember. Too many things that the information's there, just blurts out, and I can't remember who I actually said what to. I can't keep track of everything. There are essential things that I need to keep track of, the information, but not what people ask me. You need to remind me if you've asked me before, because I can't keep track of everything. There are important things that I need to keep track of. And then, yes, using commercial yogurt as a starter, then adding elderberry mid-fermentation. Okay, that's what she did. Oh, not that. So it's mid-fermentation where you add it. Got it. And she's using commercial yogurt as a starter. Okay, there you go. Thanks, Loki. I think she's mentioned it before, but it didn't click for me anyway. Yeah, that's the one. That's the brand where that's on iHerb. I think it's now available also on Amazon as well for people that can't get it from iHerb. So, and look, he's done definitely. I hope it's good and comical, and it takes the mickey out of me even more, because we like basically laughing at Harry. Well, I enjoy a good laugh at my expense. Can't laugh at yourself. Who can you laugh at? I say. Everybody takes themselves far too serious. As I say, I let the science speak for me. In that regard, is it going to pop up there? Stop using anti-Harry language instead of Harry is late. Amateur hour. Harry lost his spot. Damn it, StreamYard. Harry is far behind. Business as usual. What can help with X? Can Taurine fix X? Those glasses look funny. Roy Hours. Thanks, Loki. Yes. Positional vertigo could also be considered exercise grade of crystal in inner ear. Yeah, well, again, Gary, when it comes to that part of the inner ear and all that, it actually is healed by taurine as well. I know I sound like a effing broken record, but taurine has been shown in animals. I think I did a tinnitus. Didn't I do a tinnitus video with rats that they induced tinnitus and they gave them basically taurine and they fixed their tinnitus? And I used to have tinnitus as well. And that's because I used to listen to heavy metal. That's all gone since the taurine supplementation corrected that. As I said, if you're on an ancestral diet and you're eating actually food that is freshly slaughtered, that freshly slaughtered food, yep. She's having some nausea still, not sleeping well, at least. Got her reassessed at her new psychiatrist, so immediately changed her doses. Okay. So you're still, it's a work in progress. Try and keep the animal foods up. That's I know I sound like a broken record, but remember Amber O'Hearn, she doesn't even supplement with taurine or anything. Well, she does eat a lot of meat and a lot of also undercooked meat, so she will get from that food, and she does have some seafood and stuff like that. So she probably gets it from the diet. A lot of these sort of things, she probably could have accelerated that reversal by taking a bit of supplemental, but that's a different issue altogether. It took her longer, but a really hardcore carnivore diet really fixed her issues. And we know that, because also when you're actually, and eggs are very important, because eggs will give you choline, they'll give you serine, they'll also give you a lot of the phospholipids. So you can actually produce far more phosphatidylserine, phosphatidylcholine, and these are really important in terms of neurotransmitters and also signaling and also interacting with the genome, the genetics, and silencing some of those genes, especially phosphatidylserine. I've talked about neurological diseases and phosphatidylserine, how it actually has this silencing effect, and maybe an issue of actually considering to supplement as well in terms of that. But if you supplement with phosphatidylserine, Shelley, do keep an eye on her progress over the 6-month period, because you may need to adjust her meds as she gets better, because then she'll get into a much more hyper situation, because the meds, you know what I mean, will be too high, the dosage. So keep that in mind. Previous doctor, 9 different meds. She was only 19. What the fuck is wrong with these hats? Exactly. Yeah, I agree. You know, it is unfortunately really bad out there in the medical. They just have no idea. You don't see these conditions in tribal people. Now, obviously, if certain genes have been turned on epigenetically or over a number of generations, because, you know, people have been doing bad things to themselves, dietary wise, all of us, including yourself, you know, your daughter, your, and that passes epigenetically on to the next and following generations. They get worse. Remember, Pottinger's cats, they get worse over generations. And it's much harder to fix those problems then once you're down that pathway. So it's then a question of basically trying to go the full hog. And it's hard, I know, but, you know, stages by stages, trying to shift her and move her is an important thing. As they say, small steps. It's hard, and I understand, and I know, you know, you probably are under a bit of stress yourself, and, you know, it's not easy dealing with those sort of things. These arse hats have basically led us down this garden path where a lot of our family members have got a lot of intractable health issues. And sometimes you have to vary the sort of dosages of things and play around with things, even with some of the nutrients that I recommend. You sort of have to biohack and play around, because, you know, there are so many variations in genetics or changes and all that. I'm actually really thinking about, I don't like putting people on very high doses and of anything, but sometimes, you know, when it comes to the neurological side, I am one that really thinks that phosphatidylserine may be, you know, from the research that I've done, and so its ability to silence specifically neurologically related genes. Um, I'm not saying that it's actually going to fix the problem, because not everything can be silenced with phosphatidylserine, and I don't know which genes have been activated in different people. So it's worth a try and see what happens. You've got nothing to lose, in a sense. You do it for 6 months, doesn't work. You say, well, okay, it didn't work, it didn't work. You know, so, yep, at least she's in my kitchen. Yep, exactly. You know, you can control some of the factors that are at play. You're welcome. Yeah, that stuff is crazy. Taurine is the thing that regulates the right acidity levels for the right foods that you're absorbing. You don't need anything else other than taurine. And the gut, we know through inflammasome. I've talked about it, the metabolite of the gut microbiome. I've done the video and explained exactly how it all regulates the enteric system. We do not need any medication other than meat, which is high in taurine, or seafood even higher, that basically to regulate that, or supplementing in the early days, because we've got a lot of things that are depleting. Xenoestrogens deplete taurine, mold depletes taurine, oxalates deplete taurine. There's a lot of things that are inside us in our diet and in our environment that are depleting, gassing, from furniture and whatever, creating xenoestrogens, in our workplace. There are so many sources of xenoestrogens, plastic bottles, plastic containers, that are getting into our system, that are causing derangements and problems. And that's where we need more taurine than a tribal person. Let alone we hang our meat up, we lose most of the moisture, we lose most of the taurine. Our meats are not fresh, like freshly slaughtered, have much higher in taurine. So all these things are the reasons why we can't correct gut, these sort of issues, because the nutrient that basically helps in regulating, it's the master regulator in the body, is deficient in the food supply, because of the way we treat food nowadays, the way we process food. So it's the industry, and I don't think the industry is going to change because they're trying to feed these big population centers in big cities. They have to store stuff. So there's food available immediately, so you don't get shortages. It's not like the old days. It's a very different environment we're operating in. Back in those days, we had a lot of small farmers, small growers, a lot of butchers and all that. And as a consequence, we had a lot of fresh supply. It was quite early and all that. But now most people don't want to work as butchers or farmers or stuff like that. So you've got less people with more automation. More automation means that, there are less people available to basically do on a daily basis. So you have to basically do it in and store, bulk and store. And that creates a problem in our modern food supply. Yeah, it's just the way it is. Yeah, and I've covered a lot of this in the past, anyway. My aim of my channel is to try and help people when it comes to a lot of these intractable issues and stuff like that, and provide you guys with the best information and the best research science that we've got, and what we can work with. Unfortunately, the reality is that things are a lot of people have gone through a number of generations, a lot of damage and a lot of issues, and it takes time to correct a lot of those things. And sometimes there's a bit of trial and error, because what may work for 90% of people, that 10%, there's probably other factors that we haven't identified, and in those cases we need to identify those to basically make some fine tuning to sort things out. What would you recommend for a fasting routine for maximum weight loss? I'm not into these sort of extreme fasts and stuff like that. If you basically just eat just steak and eggs, you do that all day, you will slowly lose weight and you will slowly adjust to where your weight should be. If you're not getting there, it could be mitochondrial related. And so, while fasting can help with mitochondria, it doesn't fix the sort of stuff, so in that regard. So I would say that, 3-day fast would be the maximum that I would do for most people as a reset, to do a bit of a reset, but I would not do it constantly and all that, because it's very catabolic and it's not good for your thyroid. So you'll end up plateauing out. You do need to sometimes, it's sort of cycling, because our ancestors cycled between feast and famine, and actually spiking, eating quite a lot, like you're doing on a prime, like the priming that people did, like on Bart's channel. This sort of priming effect, what it does is it actually increases your metabolic rate. It actually tries to get you to, and when you cut for a couple of days, you end up basically losing, because your metabolic rate's much higher. It's what bodybuilders do. They pack in the protein. They eat shitloads of protein and all that, and food, and then they cut, and then that's how they lose a lot of that body fat. It's sort of the way it's done. So you need to get your metabolic rate up, and then get yourself, that means no sugar whatsoever. Be very diligent. So you've got lower insulin, you're running lower insulin, and as a consequence, you can basically shed. Now, if you go over 3 days of fasting, you need to get trace minerals and B vitamins in. You don't have to worry about fat soluble vitamins. They're unimportant, Dave, because you'll be releasing into your bloodstream fat soluble vitamins. But if you're basically, taking, taking because it's about 3-day cycle for B vitamins. So if you're taking a B complex and you're taking some trace minerals in there with your water, and some sodium, you should be fine. You should be able to extend it out to 6-7 days easy in that regard. So if you're going to be doing a a couple of days, like a week of priming, like really eating a lot of meat and a lot of fat and really getting this your metabolic rate up, and then doing a 7-day fast, you will see much better results that way. Or you can do it slowly, and slowly is basically, you know, just keeping it clean, steak and eggs, nothing else. And pretty much, I'm actually going to do a video on this, covering looking at the energy turnover within the body and all that, but properly, not this sort of calorie nonsense, but actually looking at the energy at different weights and all that, and how much, because you do produce your body weight in ATP. But even there's an issue in terms of mitochondrial efficiency. So that's another question which I will cover in that video. So it's going to become, some of it's going to be less complicated, some of it's going to be quite complicated. I'm still thinking about how to actually do it in a way where it's anybody can understand. So yeah, it's a work in progress. So look forward to that for a more comprehensive insight. I have a question about canine probiotics containing L. acidophilus NAS super strain, and I do know about the acidophilus one, but the other one I don't know enough about, and they're appropriate strains for dogs. Let me look into it, Deborah. Ask me next week. Ask me next week. I'll look into the other one and see what the interactions are of the product. Let me take a look into it, and I'll get back to you, because there's always research on these things, and sometimes the research can be faulty and all that. And I always look for research that actually shows me any side effects to be able to work out, is there any issue? So hold off and let me know. Ask me next week. I'll actually look into it. But the acidophilus shouldn't be a problem, but the other one I'm not sure about. So I'm not going to recommend something that I'm not sure about. Very much so, yes. Once you have hypothyroidism and taking Lexington 2 years, it is possible for the thyroid to start working again, or are you stuck taking it forever? No, you're not stuck taking it forever. If you go on a species appropriate diet, like, for instance, because remember, your thyroid needs to have the right nutrients. That's important. And when you're on a species appropriate diet, you will get good levels of iodine, because you need iodine and selenium are the two major ones. And you can find, if you're eating enough animal foods, you'll get those in your diet. You also need zinc. You'll get that if you're eating meat, not a problem. And you'll also basically get a lot of that sort of stuff if you're basically getting an animal-based nutrition. You'll get all the elements you need. Now, you can enhance that with vitamin D, because vitamin D seems to basically improve autoimmunity. So, and also with taurine, also tends to improve the functioning of, because it actually is regulating some of the key electrolytes and key, ions that do have an effect with the actual thyroid, with all the organs, but with the thyroid in this case we're discussing, and it does actually modulate the right composition of ions going inside the thyroid. That plays an important role. Now, I know Lukey, he had hypothyroidism now, and he couldn't build muscle. Now that's gone away. He's been on a carnivore diet, doing taurine and a lot of sun. He got his sun levels up to 80 nanograms per milliliter. So he got his vitamin D really to high levels. As a consequence, he doesn't have the problem anymore. So yes, you can move away and he was on medication as well. So you can move away from this sort of medication and correct your thyroid with a species appropriate diet. But it can take a certain amount of time. Some people longer than others, depending on also how much damage to the thyroid happens. This is where taurine plays a role, because taurine actually can fix fibrotic tissue and damage to organs and remodel them back to the normal modeling of your genetics where they should be. like your thymus and your heart and all that, because it does remodeling, back to the baseline, what your genetics require. That's why it's a regulator of many systems. So yeah, that's very important. So, and it can vary. Some people, as I said, can have a bit more damage or less damage to the thyroid, depending on how long they've been on meds, how long they've had the condition, and all this. So it can take a bit longer or a bit less, depending. So carnivore, sun, and taurine should fix it. How long? That depends on how much damage. For instance, my fibrotic tissue in my lung took ages, but after about what was it, about 7 odd years, eventually got down to about 18%, but it was completely glassed. My heart is completely zero fibrosis, all gone, which is fantastic, and I don't have to worry about it. So I've been discharged by my cardiologist as well, which is great. So won't be seeing him again and being criticised for not taking statins. Upvoted. Oh, thank you. Oh, yes, do hit the like button. People, please do hit the like button. Harry, I know the whole EMF impact overblown, but I do believe that people truly have sensitivity. What do you think is the reason? Deficiency, hormonal, genetics, probably a mix that cause some susceptibility to people. There are certain genes that do affect a number of pathways that are related to both. Some people, this is why some people have even more sensitivity to blue light. Some people have more sensitivity to, non-native magnetic field. They do have sensitivity to certain compounds. They can't detox them properly. So it's a combination of exposure, genetics, and lifestyle factors and diet. So it's a number of things that are at play why people have. So a number of people may have to address a number of things. It's like me, for instance. I fixed up a lot of things in my diet, but I still had problems, with getting really deep sleep. And then blue blocking glasses, fixed up the lighting, got a projector rather than using my TV. I've put my TV that I use in daytime in another room. And so as a consequence, that issue went away. So I needed to go to the next level. Not everyone does. Some people just have it in the evening, take a bit of taurine, bring down cortisol, amplify melatonin, no issue. All done, all sorted. And other people are more sensitive to blue light. And I had, bad eyesight when I was younger and all that. So I'm a bit more sensitive. So there's going to be variations in that regard. Yeah. So you've got to address a number of things. And that's a long conversation. I've covered a lot of that anyway. But as I always say to people, when it comes to, it's the, like even the sun, it's in the terawatts. It's much stronger. The intensity of UV is much stronger. And the nice thing about and it actually helps with some of these issues of EMF as well. Taurine in a very different way. Niacin in another different way helps. But ultimately, it's sort of trying to reduce your exposure in that regard. So, unfortunately, there's too much AC related power around us and less DC, so direct current, which is closer to native magnetic fields, DC, where AC is not native. And unfortunately, AC is problematic in that regard. But some people are more sensitive than others. But you can't get away from all your wiring in your home is, it's all around you. So when you're on a species appropriate diet and a low deuterium diet is what you actually tend to cope much better with EMFs. So reducing the exposure to blue light and being on a low deuterium diet are the two most effective ways of dealing with non-native EMF effects in those highly sensitive people. But unfortunately, a lot of these people eat too much kibble and stuff like that. That's their problem. Or don't eat fats that are very low in deuterium. There's a lot of those sort of elements. You're welcome, mate. That's time restricted feeding. Fasting is when you do it. You have to basically deplete your glycogen really to be fasted. Fasted basically really means it. If you do a dry fast, it can be done within about 36 hours. You can be in a fasted state. If you do a wet fast, it's up to 3 days. So it's different depending, and there can be slight variations. And we know that because we know that basically blood sugar will go up. All these things sort of will go up, and then they will come down. They will all sort of normalize. Ketones will go up much higher. All these sort of things are just, and it takes about 24 hours plus, depending on what you're doing, dry or. But if you go into a dry fast, you better make sure you're fat adapted. Otherwise, you're going to get into trouble because you need to produce metabolic water from your own fat stores. So you need to hydrate with fat. That means you need to be fat adapted. So never do a dry fast, and never do a dry fast over 3 days, because you're going to be missing out on B vitamins. You still need B vitamins and trace minerals. When I go into a dry fast, I take quite a bit of B vitamins, like 2 capsules, plus a lot of trace minerals, and then I go into it. So I've basically put my body up, all those elements. I've taken the taurine as well to basically, hold on to that sort of stuff. And then I remove all water, which reduces the amount of urination. And that's the key thing. My urination goes down to practically, little drippings, but it's still clear, which means that if you see it go dark, that means you're not fat adapted. You're starting to break down protein. But if you basically said it's still clear, and mine was all clear up to 3.5 days, not a problem. And I had no symptoms and no problems. I felt great. I was fine. I was at work. I was actually working 3 days dry fasting at working. Most people would say, "Are you insane?" I was working. I was quite productive as well. So actually a bit more productive than my usual days. So I was pretty good. But that's being fat adapted. You can do that. In the past, I would have never done that, So it depends. But that's time restricted feeding, 16 hours. I do that nearly every day, 16 or even more time restricted feeding than that sometimes, depending. Thank you, Tracy. Yes, I know you've got to get going. See you, darling. Yeah, I'll look into it. I'll definitely look into the other one too, because I don't know enough about it. So yeah, there's a lot of different strains out there. If you know the numbers as well, because they do have numbers, the actual, because it's not only the family, but it's also the specific strain. So if you got the number and you can put it in the actual, then that will help me to be able to identify quite clearly and give you an opinion very quickly on those when I've checked them. Over my 15-year Jack Russell Parker on a carnivore diet with taurine supplementation a month so far, and he's doing fabulous. Exactly. Fantastic. That's it. You've been picking up things from Mr. Bart K. I notice. Next, you'll be singing his song that drives Pim up the wall. G'day, Adrian. G'day. And SMS all day long. It's one way of doing it, Rick. Not a problem. Yeah, exactly. He's managed to build 1.5 kilograms of basically muscle in about 7 weeks. That's the difference now that he's silenced the Hashimoto's and got rid of it on a carnivore diet with taurine plus sun. Very important to get your vitamin D levels up, people. You have to get them up into the therapeutic range of the 80 nanograms. So really bloody important to do that. I'm not kidding you. It's really important. There is so much literature on vitamin D and its importance to autoimmunity. I'm not kidding. Now, in terms of millimoles per litre in the metric system that is used in Australasia and the millimoles one, well, it's 200. So if your doctor says, if you're less than that, you're not doing it right. You need to get it up to 200 and 80 for the American system. Because we need to silence those genes. I want to put on muscle. Is lifting weights contraindicated? No. We've been lifting things and moving things around all our life. You know, I find when I weightlift, I sleep better. Me too. Especially if I've done a good session. So yes. You can actually enhance the muscle building. What you do is about an hour and a half before you do it, you can take 2 grams of taurine. If you're a smaller person, 2 grams is fine. If you're a really large, like a big, like Sean Baker, a really big, tall bloke and all that, you may have to take up to 3 or 4 grams and do it about an hour and a half before your training. So what that will do is that will saturate throughout your whole body, the taurine. And then when you do your, because a mild myostatin inhibitor, but it doesn't it prevents any remodeling of the heart, which protects the heart, which is important, because when myostatin goes down, it can be, problematic for the heart. But it will actually taurine protects the heart, which is great, but at the same time, it inhibits slightly myostatin, which means it enhances your muscle protein synthesis. Got it? And so it actually enhances also leucine's effect. So yes, double whammy, and become much more muscular, much faster. So yes, the magic of animal nutrients. Anyway, yes, exactly. Let the meat heal your soul. Very much so. A lot of truth in that. G'day, Adrian. Hey, Harry. Apologies if you have already mentioned this, but what happened to your heart? Did you have? Yeah, I did. Exactly. Partial or heart failure. My follow-up question is below. Well, I did basically, is it this one here? Where GP cardiologist fascinated as to how you reversed your fibrosis. No, they weren't. They basically, yeah, you don't even have discussions like that with them. They are so brainwashed. You're probably the only person I've heard about who has been able to do that. And hey, Harry, are the RDA of vitamins and minerals based on any related data? No, it's just basically expert opinion, like the rest of the shit out there. It's just nonsense. I'll give you an example. I did a video on the excretion rates of different minerals and stuff like that. I did primary the potassium and magnesium. Potassium, we excrete 192 milligrams on average. Depends on your size as a person, how big you are. But on average, you're actually excreting about that. Magnesium is about 120 milligrams per day, 20 in the feces and 100 in the urine. And we know that. This is actual mechanistic research where they've basically done the research. How much you excrete, how much you can absorb and stuff like that, all this sort of stuff. It's been done. We don't need fucking experts telling us. This has actually been done in a clinical setting. And what did they find? We get when you eat meat, you get more than enough magnesium. You get more magnesium than you excrete. You get more potassium than you excrete. You eat a big steak, you'll get basically something like well over a gram and a half of potassium. Well, you're only excreting 192 milligrams. Let's say you sweat, you go out and exercise like bad and all that. You may, lose a bit more, but it'll still be less than a gram, less than half a gram. It'd still be basically like 200 or something like that. It's still going to be bloody low. You excrete less than you take in from an animal food. Now, why can't you retain? It's usually low insulin that you can't retain, or poor kidney regulation of electrolytes. So when you go on a fast or a keto diet, you don't have enough of the elements to basically, first of all, your insulin is low, so you drop electrolytes. The second thing that you actually do is you don't have enough taurine because you're not eating enough meat. That's what the carnivore diet corrects. So insulin will hold into to some extent in electrolytes. Doesn't mean it will manage them properly. You still can actually get, not enough potassium or too much. At the cell membrane, you try to maintain, your body's trying to maintain electroneutrality. That means that the right amount of positive and negative ions to basically, so there is a neutral electrical state in your body. Otherwise, you'd have sparks, and that wouldn't be very good. So this electroneutrality that it's maintained is by shifting ions back and forward. Now, if you've got taurine that is a regulator, an osmolyte that regulates, or so you eat enough meat, you get enough taurine. At the kidney level, your body will say, we need more potassium or magnesium or whatever, and it will maintain those. It will keep them in through the little nephrons. That's where taurine will actually work. If it saturates those nephrons, it will regulate properly the recycling of these ions. And then it will make sure that the right amount of concentration of ions of magnesium and potassium are inside the cell. This is why most people, when they go and actually eat more meat or take some taurine, their cramps go away and they go, well, what happened? Your electrolytes are being properly managed. That's what happened. And you're more ancestral, like our ancestors eating shitloads of meat. They regulate, and it's also fresh meat, so it's not hung for months like our food supply, which depletes a lot of the taurine in it. And that's why we have to supplement to some extent, unless we're eating more seafood, which tends to have more, which is less loss because they freeze it when they catch it wild. Most of our other meats, ruminant meats, are hung up for months. It's because of the modern food supply of storage and stuff, like not enough people working in the industry, high automation. I've said it before earlier. These are the reasons why we've changed the way we do our food preparation practices are different. So really, it's basically sorting out those things, and that's what actually does. So the RDAs and all that is just basically nonsense, and there is ample research when it comes to this issue. And this issue is, long as you basically don't inflame your body, you can fix cardiovascular. You can reverse it. It takes a decade. It's not immediate. Didn't happen today. It was about 11 years ago when I started on this journey. 12 years ago is when I had the operation. 11 years ago when I started on this journey. And it's been a long journey, making adjustments and biohacks and changes and all that stuff that I've been talking about on most of my videos and channels and stuff like that. But I did start taurine quite early, about 10 years ago, which was really important. And that was accidental due to basically, and it didn't even have to do with fibrosis. I didn't even know about fibrosis at the time. I took it because I found out that it basically, when you get two things I found out. One, when you get blood perfusion, you actually get a lot of damage, and how taurine is heart protective from their blood perfusion. Then I also analyzed what are the nutrients inside hearts. And I actually found that coenzyme Q10, taurine, all these different things that were in there. And I go, okay, I need to make sure that I'm getting enough of these things. So I was more focused on So I supplemented taurine, I supplemented coenzyme Q10 as the reduced form, ubiquinol. So I did a lot of that choline because I found out about my fatty liver and the genetics that I had, that I needed to supplement choline. So I did that. I started eating more eggs. And so all these sort of things fell into place. And over time, it fixed it. And over time, I found out about, it actually fixes fibrosis, because I had glassing of my left lung, which my doctor was fearful that it would go cancerous, that I'd end up with lung cancer. But that actually, as I did the taurine for that, my lung got better. And I was wondering what the hell was going on. So I thought it was just a general diet initially. And then I sort of started looking a bit more into taurine. And then I came across this big, thick type research book that had been done, actually paid by taxpayers in America, stored at the National Institute of Health. And basically, I found out that they knew about all these things that taurine does. And I go, wow. So you're telling me the stuff in meat and fish does all these wonderful things? And then is when I had that moment. This was before I started a channel. This is like about a couple of years back, about 5 odd years back. But I didn't talk a lot about it in the early days. I mentioned it here and there, but not a lot. And the reason for it is I wanted to slowly develop the arguments about these sort of things. And I was worried that if I just started talking about taurine, everybody would think I'm a crackpot or something like that. So I needed to make the arguments for meat. And that's why I did a lot of the other videos and all that. And also I wasn't, I downloaded the stuff, but I hadn't read it right through. I only read parts of it, and I knew parts of the stuff. But the more I've been looking into it, and there's a lot of chapters that I still haven't gone through. There's just a shitload. I could basically, for the rest of my life, write on this, just on taurine, nothing else. Just I would run out of life in order to do enough videos. There is so much information about it. And recently I did a video with Pim Johnson where I did like a 2-hour where I primarily spoke. I know Pim didn't she got a few questions in, but not a lot. But and the problem is, even after 2 hours, I felt like I hadn't even covered the subject sufficiently enough, because there was so much to still talk about, all these other. So we're going to do another follow-on about the neurological stuff of that, and also covering some of the functioning of our organs and stuff like that, which we haven't covered in detail. So these are going to be follow-on videos that I'm going to do with Pim Johnson. And if you check, if you go down and check my featured channels, yeah, you're out kind of crazy, Harry. Yeah, I know. Yes, I love to learn things. I'm like a sponge. I want to just, I'll tell you one thing that actually makes a great thinker. Intelligence is not basically, you're not born with intelligence. I was just a slightly above average person. I wasn't intelligent as a youngster. I was also not a great student, an average student I was. The only subject that I really had high marks in, like 18 out of 20 in Greece, was physics, because I got on with my physics teacher and I love physics. But every other subject I was sort of, the 15 out of, which is a credit, like 75%, but it was not, the high marks. Physics was my only one that got up to 18 out of 20. And when it came to ancient Greek, oh God, did I struggle with that. I was only getting out 12 out of 20. So I was just managing slightly above a pass. But yeah, I really did. I love sports. I did a lot of that sort of stuff, and used to play soccer, used to do a lot of cycling and stuff like that, and a bit of weightlifting as well, because a mate of mine had a weightlifting sort of setup under his home. So we used to go there and do a bit of that as well. So yeah, it was a very different life. And then I sort of moved neighborhoods, and the kids there were sort of upper middle class, much smarter than me, and well learned. And I felt dumb. I really felt dumb, Adrian, really dumb. And I started reading profusely. And within a very short amount of time, I was reading like 7 books a week, and within a matter of a couple of, and that's concurrently, simultaneously reading multiple books. And within probably a year, a bit over a year, I learned so much. I absorbed into my head because I had the will. If you don't want to learn something, you won't learn. You really have to have the drive. And I had the motivation. It was more probably ego. As a youngster, I didn't want to feel dumb around these other kids, and I ended up learning far more than they ever did. And I was out to out debate them and everything. And I realized at that moment that you're not born with intelligence. You're not smart just because you're born or you grow up in a family that gets exposed. If you're motivated, you get motivated at any point in life to learn, and you really have a drive. Yeah, you'll really learn a lot of things. I think some people, they learn their profession, they stick tightly within their profession. They don't learn outside the box. People like Einstein were great thinkers because they learned outside the box. They were actually controversial people. Einstein was even had difficulty with mathematics. He wasn't a good mathematician. He really struggled in mathematics. He was very poor in mathematics. He actually had difficulty finding a good job. He actually had to get one of his mates to help him with some of the maths in his theory. But because he was basically working at the patent office and exposed to all these new different ideas and started reading all this sort of stuff and all that. He had so much information. When you've got a lot of information, you can do more. You can compare more things. You can see associations and relationships, patterns that other people don't see miss, because they have learned the standard information. They've gone through the standard education system. They've learned the standard stuff. They've been told this is, and they live within that restricted standard model. People that are outsiders, they are the creative people. They're the people that basically make innovations, change things, realizing, see patterns and go, wow, that's the sort of person I am. But I didn't realize it as a youngster. And that's why basically I've been able to come up with these solutions. So, but these people will never do, because they're in that paradigm of pharmacology and surgical techniques, and they can't escape it because they're brainwashed into that. And most people, you go through an education system, you're brainwashed to learn exactly these things, and then these are like dogmas. You follow the dogmas, and everybody does. They say, oh, we want people to be critical. Bullshit. No, you just want them to basically believe what's in the book as the dogma and make sure that they can repeat it as parrots all the time. And that's what happens. Where I jumped, for some reason, the way I've grown up, the way I've been influenced, I've been always a maverick, an outsider. I've never been a conformist, been a bit of a rebel as well. Would get into street fights and all sorts of things. I don't conform to the nice boy, especially when I was younger. And so, yeah, I got into all sorts of things. As I said, I did some things that were questionable on the legal side. So basically, yes, I've had a very colourful life in that regard, but I'm an outsider. And as an outsider, I look at things very differently in the world. I don't follow the standard rules. I usually break rules rather than follow rules. And so by being an outsider, you can look in and say, well, that's bullshit, because you're street smart as well. And so when you're smart, when you have got a lot of knowledge and you're street smart as well, that street smartness gives you the edge. You can see the bullshit for the real stuff, the real relationships and all that. And that's the difference. And I think that the way I've socialized, and if you encourage people to be critical thinkers, you really have to basically allow them to look at a lot of information. Don't restrict, because when you restrict, then they really don't have a proper insight into things. And that's what the education system does, and just brings out the standard your standard model of person or human that will do the standard job as a cog in the system, because that's what they want. Yes, you sort of have to step away from that and realize, I've been bullshitted. I wonder what, and then go in and look and do a deep dive. So remember, g'day, Jonathan. Intelligence. I don't consider myself an intelligent man. Believe me, I just consider myself above average, and that's just because I've accumulated so much knowledge that I can compare a lot of information in my brain. When you have limited knowledge, it doesn't matter. Limited knowledge will just give you very limited analytical basis. So really, you have to be a creative thinker. You basically have to be willing to learn. You have to have a drive to learn new things, not just what they teach you, but outside things that they don't teach you. There, that makes a big difference. Okay. The acidophilus one is the standard type. I think I know which one it is, but yeah, this is the one that I don't know about. So I need to look into it. It may be fine, but best to look into it just in case. You never know. Your thoughts on how many grams of taurine for helping a lady in 50s with muscle aches and pains? Now we don't. Well, that could be for a lot of reasons. That could be arthritic problems. That could be a lot of other issues beyond just. And in terms of for keratin binding, if it's like an arthritic type or whatever, I would consider also not only taurine but MSM. And so, Adrian, I would consider something like 2 grams of MSM, 2 grams of taurine in the evening to help her with the sleep and also help her with electrolyte balance and stuff like that. And maybe another 2 grams of taurine in the daytime if she's doing any physical activity and all that, which would enhance and improve the muscle function and healing as well, because taurine does help with healing of muscles in that regard. So it does improve muscle. Yeah, a lot of bodybuilders use it for protein, to transport protein, because it does that as well, but also for to get more out of it, more endurance in terms of that. So to be able to do longer workouts. Not that you should, but anyway, that's what they do. So, but remember, the lithium and blood pressure meds issue, I have done a video. So make sure you check that video, because it can interact negatively and you need to adjust that medication if you're on lithium or blood pressure meds, if she's on any one of those. So you have to go very slow doses. So the easier one is to throw in MSM 2 grams. Don't go above 2 grams. It will help with the hair growth as well and the nails. So, but also with the collagen in the body. You're welcome. Yeah, doctor's probably thinking that you are the one who cured you. Yeah, look, they have no idea. They just basically, at the end, I said, look, I got rid of all processed foods. I told them a while ago, because that's what I was telling them a number of years ago. They got rid of all processed food. I've gone back to real food and left it at that. This was years ago. But I haven't really had a conversation since then, because each time I start a conversation, I ended up in an argument or an argument over statins. So, yeah, it never ended pretty. So I just stopped arguing with them. So they had no idea. They just kept on testing me and seeing improvements. And that's basically the end story of it. And now they've discharged me because they say, well, you're healed. We don't need to have you coming back here anymore. And I was happy to see the back of them as well in that regard. Lukey. God almighty. Yeah. And we've got this one from Lukey. Not milk. Plant-based milk alternative. Excellent source of calcium, vitamin D, and B12. Harry stares aggressively. Get this shit out of the store, would be my opinion at that point. Oh, God. So what's this? Animal pooper is beneficial. Yes, I did turn around Bart on that question, didn't I? Yes, yes, yes. He did come around, uh, on that issue. Look, even I sort of viewed the animal poofer issue a bit of an issue in the early days, in my paleo days, which is about 10 years ago. But nowadays, I don't have that issue whatsoever. It's because I looked at the research and I've done plenty. If you do Harry Serpanos poofer, you'll find plenty of videos on poofer that I've actually done on animal poofer. It's not an issue. And Bart knows it now because I showed him the research. We had a bit of a conversation. It was actually on a live stream. So basically, and then he's convinced, he goes, yeah. Because really, even if you cook meat like pork for 3 hours, you only get trace elements of oxidation on all meats. That's up to 3 hours. Nobody cooks their meat for 3 hours. That becomes like charcoal, like black on the outside. But even after that, you're only getting trace elements because the food matrix, the way it's actually held within the actual the fat, it's different. Animal food seems to be basically less problematic to this oxidation issue. Plants tend to be more susceptible, and that's the difference between PUFA, let alone the industrial seed oils add another dimension, which is the deuterium dimension, which they ramp up quite severely. That's another issue in itself. But they have high aldehydes, which are which rip lipid membranes and have high primary and secondary oxidative products. So you have to basically, in order to get, so if you've got you take seed oil or take a plant-based fat, which is PUFA based. If you keep it in storage for, let's say, a week, that if it oxidizes that amount, if you basically cooked meat, for instance, for what was it, 30 something hours, I can't remember now, it was a massive amount, you would only get this little amount. So even after so many hours where you're no longer getting trace levels, you're getting some level of oxidative products and aldehydes and all that, it's still minuscule. That's the difference. So it's a non-issue. And when you're in a low carbohydrate state, you're also got another advantage. You got lower insulin, upregulated intracellular glutathione, and that glutathione, because also selenium and other stuff that are in the animal foods will give you more glutathione. That glutathione not only deals with the oxidation, but also refreshes vitamin A and vitamin C. Sorry, vitamin E and vitamin C. And they are electron donors and they stabilize any PUFA that has these trace elements. So it becomes a non-issue. That's why people can eat cooked meat and all that and still have very low C-reactive protein and all these inflammatory markers being very low because it's a non-issue. Take seed oils, those inflammatory markers go up. We know it. There's research. So it's quite clear what is driving some of these problems and what isn't. And it's not in the animal kingdom, it's in the plant kingdom that is causing a lot of these problems. Farmer Strong, good to have you here. Yes, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. Pim and Harry. Yes, yes. So that I think Pim's releasing it this coming week, I think. It was supposed to be last week, but probably it took Bart ages to basically process the damn thing because he was processing his own stuff. So was Einstein. Yes, yes. He wasn't good at maths and needed some help, but was a prophetic, big reader, read a lot of things and had so much information. And also when they actually cut his brain open, when he died, he gave his brain to science. They actually cut it open. They actually saw much more density. When you actually use your brain a lot and you're thinking and you're analyzing things and I'm a bit of a problem solver. I have been all my life. And I like to, learn new things to go, oh yeah, that's a new insight, a new way of viewing the same issue and all that. I know, yeah, a bit crazy, but anyway. But that sort of way is you end up with greater brain density, but all those neuro pathways tend to also mean you can actually see patterns that other people can't. That is intelligence. It's really basically, it's hard work. It's really hard work. If you're lazy, you're not going to become intelligent. You have to work at becoming intelligent and think outside the box. That's what intelligence is. So anybody can become like me, anyone, as long as you've got the drive, the enthusiasm, the wanting to learn, and the wanting to use your mind to compare things and all that, and pushing yourself. Most people just can't do that part, can't motivate themselves for a whole lot of reasons. The way they socialize, the way they're interacting with people. The system itself tells you this is what you're supposed to learn, this is what you're supposed to do. You know, it fences you in, it barricades you in, it tells you this is it. You know, put your blinkers on, and this is what you're going to do. This is what you're supposed to do for your work. And unfortunately, a lot of people tend to go down that pathway. Pim and Harry videos go live in about 20 hours. Okay. Does it? Okay. I didn't know. Okay. So tomorrow then, she's releasing it. A lack of knowledge creates fear. Seeking knowledge creates courage. Very nicely put, Shell. I like that one, Shell. I do like that one. .ssn. That's the acronym for an attack, a nuclear-powered attack submarine. G'day, Dean. You'll know all these things, even military things. I do analyze military history, military concepts, and things like that as well. Yeah, I've got a love of history, for military strategic thinking and tactics, and yeah, you name it. I've got an interest in, and this is why I have this deep reservoir of knowledge I can bring to a whole lot of different subjects, because everything in the world, I've realized there are a lot of relationships that we miss because we've got very narrow amounts of information, or we're focused on, or we've been taught just narrow stuff. It's probably why still in my age at 50, whatever, I still innovate at work. It's, probably why they love me and they want to keep me. Anyway, MSM is a great site. Yes, it is. Good for good hair, for good hair growth and nail growth. Your nails will always be very nice and pinky and very good quality nails, especially if the women want to grow long nails. Yes, fantastic. I know a number of people that, even in my family, women that want to grow long nails, they love their MSM for that reason. It's all vanity, but I don't care. Whatever keeps them happy. Harry, do you think small amounts of arthritic wear and tear is normal and accumulative in all humans over a lifetime? Look, there will be some level, because we live in a real world. We're always exposing ourselves to all sorts of things. There's always going to be some wear and tear, and some sort of, but it usually is very, very little. And it usually, what happens is LP little a gets upregulated, and that will go in, will stitch up that area, put in because that's a modified version of LDL, stitch up that area, and then it will calcify, bring calcium in. No different than cutting yourself and injuring yourself. You get sort of, you get this collagen sort of build up, you get calcium in there and all that, and that sort of creates like a flake. As long as you don't itch it, scratch it, it will basically then heal on the bottom, and then it will just come off. And it's the same thing, that little calcification. Usually a very little, you can hardly see it in many of the like analysis. I suspect even people that get a CAC score of 0 have got this very little in some areas here or there where they may have sustained some level of damage. So yes, and that gets cleared away and sorted. It's the cumulative damage continuously builds up and creates this stenosis and all that. So yeah, I always also believe, which I'm going to do a video later this month in explaining some of the procedures of, basically, I've already done a video on about calcification and the importance of stable angina. So I've already covered that, but I'm going to go a bit further in explaining some of the nuancing and some of the protocol techniques of how to go about sorting at different stages or different levels. So I'm not sure whether I'm going to do multiple videos of low issue, medium issue, and high issue, or whether I'm going to do it in combined video. I haven't really made up my mind how I'm going to structure that at this stage anyway. So I'm still thinking about it, Adrian. Fitness compilation. Good to see you, mate. Nothing like a good Harry stream. Oh, boy. What about a Roy stream? You think Harry's better? Oh, thanks, mate. Inexpensive and well documented. That's the other things. You're welcome. Yes, definitely F them off. Mitochondrial poison. Yes, not good stuff. Thought on vegans saying we can produce 100% of the cholesterol we need when looking it up. Some sources say 80%. Yeah, it's usually, look, our body usually, look, your body can, you know, oh, there's Loki. Better put him on. G'day, Loki. So, yeah, in the dark. keeping the light issues away. Oh, it's 12 o'clock. At long last, I can start drinking my coffee. It's been sitting here and going cold.
Yeah, being a bit of a bad boy today, but I've already cheated earlier, so I brewed some yerba mate and it was like 6 p.m. And then I started thinking to myself, am I not going to sleep early today? Whatever. Let me just have some.
I think the easiest reply when it comes to the vegans saying that is just look at their skin, just look at their bodies, just look at the breakdown of their tissue and all that. Are they getting enough? Because producing, saying that the body can produce quite a bit of cholesterol, that is true, the liver can, but it also actually needs precursors. And those precursors that actually provide you with the ability to produce cholesterol are basically animal-based primarily. One is saturated fat, which they don't get enough of.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're not taking in, this is why saturated fat increases cholesterol. Simple as that. Now, it can vary the amount of LDL. That's a different thing because that's just a boat. That's not cholesterol. Yeah. The cholesterol's inside the boat, and that boat that floats around, which is an ability to have a hydrophobic capacity to so you're not mixing water with fats, fluids with fats. You're basically shipping this around in an LDL lipoprotein. So it's like a truck. Just think of it as a truck. Now, the amount of LDL lipoproteins can vary because it depends on your genetics. The ApoE in particular is one class of genes that regulate that. So you may end up having more circulating chylomicrons if you've got an ApoE of 2,2 in particular and less LDL, but you've still got circulating lipids, these lipoproteins that are moving around, moving energy. It's just in different boats. They got a different name. This is a stupidity. But if you take the totality of all these things, the energy is the same. And the amount of cholesterol moving around is more or less the same. It's just in a different vehicle. When you measure one vehicle due to genetics, that person will take up remnant chylomicrons more rapidly with a 4,4 and end up with more VLDL being exported and more LDL being produced. That's just because they've got a different energy management system. But that doesn't mean there's a problem. If it's native LDL, not a problem because it's not oxidized. Just wanted to cover that point as well because that's bullshit that they also talk about. But basically, you do need the precursors to produce enough cholesterol. You do need saturated fats, and they don't get enough saturated fats. So they will produce far less, and they will have problems in that regard. And we can see it. It's obviously how their tissue breaks down and all that. Your tissue nearly is half a weight in cholesterol or the membranes of your cells. So it's very essential for the body. So if you're not getting enough, you can't produce sex hormones and all sorts of things. And that's why their hormones in the toilet, their skin's ragged, and their bodies are falling apart at young ages. tells you a lot about that they're not getting the precursor. So even if you're not eating cholesterol, you still need to be eating those things that will produce, that the body can use to turn into cholesterol. And to a large extent, saturated fats actually produce more. Now, the body can, in desperation, convert those some of the sugars into saturated fats, palmitate in particular, and then use that to basically produce cholesterol, but it's less efficient and so produces much less, because there's only so much energy that a vagoon can actually generate to do a whole lot of functions of just staying alive, let alone producing a lot of enzymes to do a lot of other functions. So there is a level. So this is the difference between our diet. We eat a lot of these sort of stuff, so we need less enzymes to do and less cofactors. That means our micronutrient requirements go down as well. So that's why the RDAs are not even compatible to people like us. We get more, but we need less. They get less and they need more, you know. So that tells you everything about a vagoonerized approach. And we see it, how they most of them fail up to 5 years. And most of the doctors and all that never tell them that, the vagoonerized doctors. They're supplementing heavily and injecting themselves with all sorts of things to cover their deficiencies so they can cover their bullshit. It's just ridiculous. While their supporters out there just brain dead and just listen to the propaganda and think they can get it from food. It's just absolute moronic. Randall Cycle, good to have you here. Yes, I can see you're a petulant little boy. Yes. I got the look. Just look at that look. Oh. Yes. Yes. When he's engaged, he's really engaged. Shelley loves to say that. She likes to use the rude words, don't you, Shelley? Oh no. Don't be a bigot, Shell. Coming from Phoenix, that's it makes you laugh, doesn't it? Bloody hell. Yes, we know. And cool as well. Yes, that's why we love you, Shell. Hello. How are you? How to whiten teeth and safe and unsafe ways. Don't drink coffee like I do. That will basically keep the issue away. My teeth are slightly lighter than what they used to be, but I still drink too much coffee and still basically stain my teeth in that regard. Now, there are some, as long as you get, there are some good sort of options out there, but I'm going to do a video. Actually, I'm not going to discuss it here. I'm going to do a video on it. I'm going to show a number of products that I've actually used and all that, and I'm going to go through on the different options. I'm not going to say anything at this stage, but do look forward to my video, and I'm going to go through all the different options and some of their ancestral stuff that tribal people do, because they don't use any of this sort of stuff, and where, like drinking coffee and other things that we do in our modern world, that sort of we may require some other things. So I think I'm going to leave that. So wait for that, because I don't want to give too much away, so that I can actually do a definitive ancestral and modern day person comparison and approaches, how the traditional and how the modern. I think that'd be a good video, so I won't give too much away at this stage. Yes. So look forward to that. It's given me a good idea. I do have some information I was going to do on that, but I think now that I've rethought about it, just at this moment, I just had that brain fart and I go, actually, don't do, because I think I've shown some of the actual toothpaste that I've used in the past. I did show one of them, but I think I need to do a proper comprehensive modern day people, their issues, their particular issues, and why they relate that relationship. And then on the other side, look at the at some of the ancestral tribal people that don't brush their teeth, don't do any of that, but they do actually clean their teeth. They do use like little sticks to clean and all that. I'm giving too much away. Shut up, Harry. Move on. We'll discuss this in the video. Anyway, Harry, what did your workplace do about your no jabber the hut thing? If you can say, I understand. Oh no, I actually ended up. I didn't want to. They basically gave me quite a number of. I ended up working from home for a period of time. But then on the last month, I was hoping that mandates would go away. They didn't. And I had a month to basically do the double jab. And so I went and did Novavax at the beginning of the month. And then right on the last day that I had to inform work before they would take proceedings to fire me from work, I did the second Novavax. That was the last day. That was only a couple of weeks back when I did the last one. And then 3 days later, I got COVID from Dad. So yeah, I did Thursday. I did basically the Novavax, and on Sunday that I saw Dad, I get COVID from him. God, how funny! And I think the reason why I recovered poorer than him is that because I'd been so close to the vaccine, the second one, the Novavax, it sort of amplified. It's no different than, when you've done the flu vax, then you get the flu. It actually is worse than when you've done the flu vax much earlier. And then months later, maybe a month later or whatever, because there's oversensitization in your body, and then you get hit by a second wave, and you get this amplification that actually happens with your immune system. So, but anyway, it's all sorted down and all that. And you probably cause also a much greater senescence of your immune system. So maybe that was another reason why, even though Dad's older than me, he sort of recovered a bit, but he still has a few issues and all that. But now we're sorting those things out as well. And I did notice that the essential amino acids have helped me as well, and they did help my brother's partner. She basically was struggling with long COVID. She doesn't get enough. She's on a mixed diet, so she does eat quite a bit meat, but not enough, in my opinion. But yeah, I sort of was hoping that they would leave me alone, but eventually I was given the final ultimatum. You do have an alternative available that's less problematic. And so it was made quite clear that they will move against you. My manager said, I can't protect you anymore. So I knew that I had not much alternative at that stage. And I mean, if it was mRNA or stuff like that, I would have probably accepted. I don't know what I wouldn't have taken it. I would have just let them go through the process. I would have had to go take legal action against them. But since Novavax was an option and it was more traditional and doesn't have a replicating thing, it's just you're putting something in there, it's less problematic. We don't need those things. Personally, when I look at the coronavirus or the flu or whatever, you don't need to vaccinate against that. It's not polio. It's not these other things. Fine. But when it comes measles and all that, I've got no problems with vaccines about that. You guys know all my views. I've probably done more vaccines than most people. I've got a whole booklet of vaccines. But I do have a problem with coronaviruses and flus and stuff like that. You should not be vaccinating against them because there's this antigen sin, where it really works against you in the long run. So that's the other reason why I did the actual sort of, fasting and and reset of my immune system to clear it out and all that and reset it. So that's why I did that part as well. And I believe that helped. But I'm not happy that I was forced into that position, Shelley. I was not at all. Basically, they put a gun against my head. And I got a phone call from my manager on the end of the month. And he said, I hope you've got documentation that I can get them off my back and off your back. And I go, yeah. And I sent it through because it goes to your government website, your MyGov account, which is a government sort of setup where you've got your own account for it's where you put you lodge your taxes and all everything else. And so from there, I go to Medicare, which is a government sort of funded sort of payment system for getting medical treatment or whatever. And then under that, there is your information, because when the pharmacist puts it in the system, it automatically electronically gets placed. And all I did was basically I just have to show my manager. So online, I just shared my screen. I said, there it is. I didn't actually give them the information. So some people have given them the information. Since I was only required to show my manager, that's all I did. Out of principle, I wasn't going to give them any documentation, because you never know, in the future they can say, well, you gave us one document, it sort of like creates a precedent or creates a certain thing, showing just my manager. I didn't show HR, he then informed, but obviously they can't say that I ever showed them anything or that I'm obliged to at any future date. It just really annoys me. It really annoys me to this day. But, they put a gun to my head and I had no option. And I'm about less than 5 years away from my lifetime pension. So I could lose a lot of things. I've got more to lose in that regard. So I've been very angry about the whole issue. But I had my back against the wall. As I said to you guys, that if for work related or that, Novavax is the best option. I don't recommend it for people that can avoid, but I had no option. I had my back against the wall, and I don't apologize to anyone because I told everyone. And if people don't like it, they can unsubscribe and fuck off, is my personal opinion in that regard, because I didn't do it voluntarily. I had a gun against my head. Simple as that, like a lot of people. Carbs mess our bodies naturally, appetite signaling. Yes, they do. They definitely do affect that side of things. Harry, can be the strategy commander for the meat militia when the Vagoons attack. Don't worry. I'll be able to outflank them and actually even use some of Alexander's little tricks to basically outflank the little pricks and annihilate them. Take no prisoners. Decapitate the bastards. Is that appropriate for YouTube? I don't know. maybe this live stream will get demonetized. Oops. Oh well, shit happens. Drinking coffee through a straw. God. Oh,
Well,
I couldn't do that. Oh, can you imagine drinking coffee through a straw? Milkshake, maybe, but coffee? God.
milkshake, yes. Coffee, no. Yerba mate, that's how you have it, though, with a straw.
So, yeah. I don't know, maybe, yeah. The things we have to do to keep our teeth white. Yes. Should MSN have a bitter taste? I bought some cheap Henry Bloom brand off Amazon. It has a bit of it does have a bit of a, yeah. Harry, at least you got the Novavax. I'm so sorry you had to do that. I got COVID too. Yeah, I think we're all going to get Omicron, the way it's so 70% more contagious than Delta or any of the others. So I think we're all going to eventually get it. As I said, it's a blessing in disguise.
Yep.
It may get these ass hats off our back. So sorry you had to. Yep, exactly. It wasn't too bad due to vitamin D and taurine regimen. Pretty much stayed in my sinuses. Yeah, look, me as well. It did make. I at the time, because I was doing the video with the vitamin D, as well. So when I did get COVID, I basically wasn't actually doing taurine and stuff like that, because I was doing that stuff for the vitamin D video. So yeah, I sort of copped it in a number of ways. So that was a bit stupid on my part, but that's why I had to do the reset as well, to basically clear it out of my system and sort of reset my immune system. But anyway, that's another story. So yeah, but yeah, all that sort of, it's funny how it all came together within that bloody week. Oh well, shit happens, as they say. But yeah, I wasn't happy. I don't see it as a necessary thing. The other one that's actually interesting is Spike Gen out of Adelaide. Remember, I did the video about Spike Gen. It does have the ability to prevent like shedding of the virus, shedding of the vaccine, and also shedding of, so when you get it, it does a cleavage on to, I can't remember the protein now, that on the ACE receptor, and what it does is it actually prevents the virus from then creating this shedding effect, this advax thing. But remember, as I said, they haven't actually submitted all the research. I haven't actually read the research. So until they submit the research, I don't know how it works correctly. They just had a bit of an outline how it worked in a graphical way, but they didn't explain the details and all that sort of stuff. And it's still going through the trials, and they haven't published the trials. So I'm still waiting for the damn trials to be able to read them. The ones in Iran were done in Iranian. I don't know whether they've been translated. I haven't been able to find any even Iranian ones that I can translate myself. So yeah, I'm still waiting on that. It's an interesting one, because Spike Gen has the potential, if it actually does what it's supposed to without any side effects. It is a protein based like Novavax, but it has this other feature. But I don't know whether this other feature is a safe thing or not at this stage. But if it does prevent the shedding and all that, you could basically vaccinate everybody on the planet with that, and you would wipe out all SARS-2 completely, because it wouldn't shed. You wouldn't be able to spread it to any other person. And that means it would be gone in that regard. But that's as long as the advax element is safe. That's the only thing that I've got concern about. That's why I said I'm on the fence on this one. On paper, it looks fairly good. Some of the stuff that they've been reporting about the trials looks good, but we don't have the 5 to 7 years, data, and we're not going to have for any of them. And we don't basically have those sort of to be able to, for efficacious reasons, and we don't have the other sort of stuff. So yeah, I don't know on that one. If it basically had none of that sort of stuff and it would eliminate, so we didn't have to worry about COVID vaccines completely ever for the future, that could be. But then again, it was partially funded by Iran, so the Americans would probably boycott it, so it would never become widely available anyway. So I think we can forget about that. Unless Australia is ordered by America to appropriate it, nationalize the company, and tell the Iranians to take a hike, which is also a possibility. You never know in this world. Nobody follows rules. They tell everyone else to follow rules, and then when it doesn't suit them, they don't follow rules. It's like Australia recently said, oh, the Solomon Islands are basically going to build, like America says, oh, the Ukraine is free to basically join NATO. What Russia did was wrong. Now, the invasion, as I've said, was wrong, but that's what they said. And then Australia turns around, and politicians in Australia are saying we should bomb and attack Solomon Islands. And I say, isn't that a sovereign country like the Ukraine, and they can decide who they're allied to? Talk about double standards. These are hypocrites, these people. When it suits them, they'll say one thing. When it doesn't suit them, they'll say the complete opposite. Let's bomb them. Have you forgotten about their sovereignty? Yeah. And they said, we're going to send people to undermine them and support the opposition to bring down the government. Oh, so you're interfering in their domestic affairs, a bit like you accused Russia of interfering in the American domestic affairs. Talk about double standards, these people. Hypocrites on steroids, That's why people are just disgusted with these politicians and these people with their constant lies and bullshit. Just say, we're ruthless bastards. We only care about ourselves, and we're going to basically, have double standards, and we're going to do whatever we like. At least then you're truthful, and we know exactly that you're an imperialist, militaristic, don't give a shit about anyone bar your own political interests, and at least you're truthful. Stop bullshitting us as if we're naive and stupid. Unfortunately, a large part of the population is being treated like that, but that's another story altogether. How do we get into that conversation? There you go. That's all this. That's what happens, Shelley, when you've got all this knowledge from all these different things and all these things, connections, and you go from one conversation to another that's related. Yes, awful, isn't it? Anyway, probably drives some people mad. I know it's driven some of my partners mad, but anyway, that's another story as well. So far, they are not forcing us to vax. Thank God for that. Just health workers, which I understand that one. Well, yeah, in Australia, they're actually the Victorian government, which is actually like a lunatic government when it comes to jabbing. They are basically jab central in Australia, Victoria. They are now having to spend shitloads of money to basically employ new nurses and doctors, because a lot of people left the medical system because they didn't want to get jabbed. And they've got not enough people. Yes. Yes, she did. Everybody's going to, even you, Phoenix. You can't hide in your dungeon. You can't hide. You will, that little pesky Omicron will find you and seek you down and hunt you down and basically get you at some point. If I was basically a betting man, I'd put my money behind Omicron, not you.
Very nice.
Yes, lovely coughing. Nothing like coughing. Yes. Thoughts on people who eat a kibble diet feeling better and getting better skin when they drink more water than usual. Do they? It's news to me. A short time, if they're disengaging the Randall cycle, yes, they will see improvements, but then deficiencies will kick in. And yeah, same thing that happens to people, But yes, and when you're young, also you've got more tolerance as well. There's a lot of things. Harry's almost 2K subs. Yeah, I know. I'm getting close. I was surprised. I looked, but actually somebody else reminded me because I hadn't actually looked, and then I looked and I go, oh, okay. So I can remember when I was, slightly less than that, 1.7 or whatever. I just missed all this other growth. And it's just recently somebody said to me and then I looked at, and I noticed it recently. And then I think last week I mentioned that it may be that due to Twitter being, Elon taking over Twitter, and as a consequence, the other social media groups may have taken off the censor slightly. And that's where I've seen a bit of a growth spurt. So has Bart and a few others. So I don't think it's accidental. I think that they are worried that people may move elsewhere if there's too much censorship. So they're moderating the severity of their censorship. It's not gone away, but it's just been moderated, maybe to try and keep us here. Keep us in a sort of a false sense of security. Oh, we're sort of looking after you. Well, not really, but we're sort of throwing a few bits and pieces towards you just to keep you interested and maybe think, oh, I may get more. It may have changed. No, it hasn't. It's just a false sense of security or a bit of, YouTube BS to string us in, keep us on the hook. It's basically all it is. And it sort of works. Let's be honest. It's hard to sort of shift because it's hard to shift 2,000 people to another platform very easily. That's the other thing. That's the real thing. That, you know, if it was easy, if people would follow in mass, I would shift. But unfortunately, people don't, and because a lot of people have tried other sort of, and you don't get the amount of people. There's some hardcore people who move, but not many people do,
Yep.
because it's just more convenient. That's what YouTube makes it convenient to interact. So people, and there's more content, and that's what keeps people here. As long as the other players can't get more content to pull people across, that's the Achilles heel of the other platforms at this stage. Maybe in the future may be different.
Who knows?
Exactly. Yes, nothing like shedding a bit of viral load, a bit of happiness, a bit of love. Viral love.
Love is in the air.
That's it. It definitely is.
Oh God.
It's called Omicron with love.
Oh my God.
Sounds like some sort of corny sort of you know, the spy who loved you, the Omicron who loved you.
God damn it.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. It definitely has some strange ideas. Better save those other ones also that you recently made for me.
Oh yeah, we have been exchanging tactical screenshots of you lately, you know, for meme purposes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I bet Necro's been up to eyeballs in it as well.
Yeah, yes. It's like there's a market for like rare, exploitable hairy screenshots, and everyone's like,
Okay.
"Oh, you got one like this," and I'm like, "Maybe, but do you have something else in return?"
That does not surprise me at all. Not at all.
There's a black
Exactly.
market for hairy screenshots.
Alien. He's an alien for certain.
I wouldn't be surprised.
You guys, bloody, you make me laugh. You need to make an alien one of me shooting the alien with taurine. There you go. I had COVID back in January. Oh, not to miss out. Is that it, Tracy? You felt left out. Lasted about 3 days with scratchy throat. Yeah, that's what I had. Bit of a scratchy throat. I didn't really have much of a runny nose. I didn't have actually any temperature either. I don't know why, but I didn't. So no temperature, no runny nose, but just that scratchy throat, and a bit like fatigued for 2 days. And after 2 days, then I was much better. No biggie. Due to carnivore diet. Yep, all those sort of things. Yep, vitamin D, K2, taurine it came and went. Yeah, pretty much me as well, to a large extent. I just had to go back to my taurine and vitamin D, obviously, because I'd cut them out for doing that video, but that's another thing altogether. So to up all those and get things back. Mr. Baby, good to see you, mate. She's gone on walkabout. She's gone shopping. She basically went down and actually done some shopping with me to get our sort of bacon and some sausages and stuff. You know, those really nice sausages that we get with the apple cider type thing. And then we also got the beef bacon. Oh, mate, the beef bacon. That is really, really nice. You don't know what you're missing. See, living in Melbourne, basically you miss out on these things. You should get her to send you some over. Just send a truck over. She'll fill it up. She always likes buying everything in bulk like you. Just as bad as you. With you two around, basically. Tasmanian stores would be empty. Oops, still hasn't come through. Waiting for it to come through. Oh, it has come through. I will come down shortly. Haha. Yes, I know. I heard. Leave your truck at home. Him and his mum do a lot of shopping. Let's put it that way. I got some beef bacon this past week. It is nice, isn't it? I don't know why I never had beef bacon in my life. And it was the first time I saw it and I go, because always, pork based bacon all the time. That's what I thought bacon was, the beef bacon. That wasn't new to me. And I absolutely love it. It crackles up. It crackles up even better than you don't even have to heat it as long to crackle up compared to pork. It actually crackles up and heats right through. And boy, was it nice. And it actually, in the omelette that I made, it actually tasted better than my pork bacon. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I cut it up into thin strips. It was all crunchy and all that. Threw it into the actual and did up the actual the omelettes with this. Oh, man, it was nice.
Okay, you got me curious now, because that's
bloody
the way I
nice.
do my omelets. I
It
need to
was
try beef
nice.
bacon.
Beef bacon is really nice. I was surprised. I was down there and I bought, because Hello Kitty, she bought one of the actual stuff, and I said I'll have two, and then I said no, I'll have the other one as well. I think I only left them one there. I took all of the others. So I'm hoping that next time I go down there, they'll make more, and I'll grab like 4 or 5. We may have to go a bit earlier. We went a bit because I was a bit late, so it was about 15 or 20 past. We actually left 20 past 8. So we went to the farmers market, and then we did some other shopping, and then we came back. So I got back at about 10 o'clock. So normally I get back at about 9:30, but so it was, I was just ranty. Got in, left things, put the kettle on to get the coffee going and all that, and then start putting the other stuff away. So I'm looking forward to. Actually, because we're going to have a barbecue, hopefully tomorrow. So it's either going to be a barbecue if the weather's good. Sorry, today, because the weather is looking good, so we should be doing a barbecue. And if the weather is a bit on the, that'd be a different story. But if I'll take some of the beef, the beef bacon, and do that up. So yeah, that'll be nice. That's why I bought the extra pack. That's why I bought the extra pack for that purpose.
It's actually sunny over there. So.
And if my brother Sean is listening in at the moment, you're only getting one fucking pack, mate. One pack, one single pack. The other 2 are staying here. So just letting you know. It's nice stuff. So yes, you should get some, or get Hello Kitty to send you some. Driving by a local school the other day, seeing some elementary school kids wearing masks by choice. God almighty, it seems the children have gotten attached to them. Really?
Yep.
God almighty, really? Fuck me. It's not good for because they move around a lot. It's not good for their gas exchanges. It's not a good thing.
They also breathe in plastic fibers as well.
That's exactly right. You're not supposed to be wearing these, more xenoestrogens at a time where their hormones are still developing. Fantastic. God almighty, this world has gone really crazy.
Talk about it, Harry. Oh, God.
Yes, look, Shelley, I loved the actual beef bacon. I grew up with beef bacon. I don't eat pork at all. Okay, I love pork. I grew up with pork. I wasn't never really a beef person. You come from an area where it's more beef based. It used to be pork based in your state, but now it's, especially in Cincinnati, that was the porkopolis of the 19th century US. But yeah, sort of. But I can tell you, yes, I'd have to say that beef bacon is becoming a bit more favorite than pork bacon. I still love pork bacon, don't get me wrong, but beef bacon, wow, I'm just, Oh, you eat now. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's right. You do eat now because you've been influenced by this character here, I suspect. Blasphemy, Harry. Nothing on the planet tastes better than pork bacon. How dare you? Okay, I'll take myself out and I'll whip myself a couple of times. I'll say a few Hail Marys or whatever else you want me to say. Is that enough punishment? Can I actually have an extra whip? Because, I do enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'll probably start believing this sort of stuff. Got to be careful what I say.
You've only got yourself to blame here.
That's true. I only have myself to blame. Yeah, I eat pork now because you left a parent's place.
Hey, not seeing much by the way of questions now, but there's something I've been thinking about. Is the mainstream correct when they say that if you're under danger of having kidney stones, you should be having more water? That doesn't sound right to me.
Look, not really. It's not water because you can actually produce your own internal water, metabolic water. That's not. It's really having more citrate. Obviously we'll end up using water because we're consuming citrate. We've got to drink it down somehow and dilute it for you don't want to damage your teeth. So eventually you do actually get more water, but you actually also produce more water from your own body. So urination is still going to happen in that regard. You really have to. It's really the citrate there that's going to break down these crystals and and allow them to go into the bladder.
Okay.
The question is, so it's the citrate side which is you have to focus on to get enough citrate through the day, in order to basically guarantee that it breaks down, because there is always a risk. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It only happened to me once out of my 4 kidney stones. Usually, if you're oxalate dumping and you start citrate early, and taurine as well, you should help mitigate any of those potential risks. Okay. It's basically the duct that goes from your kidneys to your bladder. I had one of these that it was like a hook, and it actually jammed in there and wouldn't move. So they had to laser it out because it just got stuck in the duct, and so it was backing up. The urine wasn't being able to come out of the kidney, so they had to basically. It was like I was getting it wasn't, but it was. If it wasn't cleared out, it would back up into the kidney. It would cause problems to the kidney. So, and my blood pressure had gone sky high as a consequence of this. So they had to laser it, put the laser through, and actually, break it up, and then it basically, basically urinated. And I remember urinating for quite a bit after that. So I must have had some retention, And so even though while I was under, they must have got some fluids out, but then I still went right after. When I came to, I felt like a piss, and I immediately went had a urination. And that was pretty long urination. So there must have been a bit of fluid retention that needed to go out as well. And my blood pressure came down quite a bit after that, but it had gone really sky high. I think it was about 150, 155 or something like that. It'd gone quite elevated, way above what my normal is. Even when I was on a sad diet, it was only, even those with kibble and everything, was only basically 130, 135 or whatever. Even those, I never really had high blood pressure or anything like that. And that was, eating shitloads of seed oils and sugar and all that. But not a lot of sugar. It was more starch than sugar. I've never really been into sugary stuff. It was the seed oils that did that's probably another reason why I didn't have as high, as high sort of levels of, like a lot of people engaging very severely the Randall cycle at very high levels, because a lot of the sugar and stuff like that, in combination with glucose and fat and all that, they would have been at a much higher gradient. Mine was a lower gradient, so that's why I didn't have as high triglycerides or blood sugars or any of this sort of stuff. It was more the damage coming from the seed oils in my arteries. So that was driving it. That's why it was a 5% anomaly, was told by my cardiologist at the time. Nothing like those little lectins. Exactly. How about stop eating green things? Yep. Very much. Yes, please. Zebra. What? Luke on the zebra, mate?
I love all these coffee drinkers trying to criticize me for my yerba mate habit. It's it's much, at least for me, it's much easier to have than coffee. Whenever I have coffee, I get anxious. With yerba mate, that doesn't happen.
All I can say to these people is get a life.
Yes, get a life. Oh god.
Yeah, probably the taurine is definitely helping lower the stimulant effect. That is definitely true. Because these things like coffee and all that can raise cortisol. Enough taurine can actually moderate and bring it down into normal homeostasis and suppress its effects. So, yes. Not that I'm recommending doing these sort of things and then taking taurine to basically counteract those effects. Nothing like that. I'm just talking in general.
It is
in that regard.
This
so
is my
just
plant advice.
in
Don't,
general.
don't do anything I would.
Yeah. Yes, we all have to laugh out loud. That's true, Shell. Always. I heard my phone go off. Just give me a sec. I just need to check it. Find out.
Oh, all right. Yes, around the show. Yes. So now let's review how we'll destroy the world. Okay. I seriously don't know what to say while he's gone. Would be nice if he could hear this though. Probably would be funnier. How many people are watching? 23. Okay. Yeah, no one forgot to like the video.
Are we doing a barbecue?
Ooh.
What time is it now? It's nearly 1 o'clock. I'll probably come off at about 1:30. Oh. Okay. Call you back. See ya.
Yes. Oh, by the way.
Oops.
Yes, we heard about the barbecue. We heard that about the barbecue, Harry.
Yeah, he just told me to. He tried calling me, so it probably wasn't watching. So he just asked me to. He's probably trying to organise everything. So he told me, call me back, and we will sort out what we're going to do. So that's good. He doesn't know how much beef bacon I've got. Good.
Yes, undisclosed amount.
Only one is left. Sorry. Yes.
Oh, by the way, Harry, my friend, I asked about the kidney stones earlier because my friend with Crohn's, and he's finally back to living here with us. He has struggled with kidney stones for like several years, like about a decade or so.
So he was doing a lot of plant-based in the past.
Yep, yeah, and like it's funny
so he's got a lot of accumulated oxalate.
Yeah,
remember what I did? I was doing heavy spinach like every morning, spinach and bacon and eggs, like a whole bag full. So I was getting massive amounts of oxalate.
So
and I remember I did a lot of chocolate, dark chocolate as well, which has a lot of oxalates. 2 years of dumping, and for a large part of those periods, I actually went heavy, and I can tell you, I felt pain in my kidneys right through that, a lot of that period. So it wasn't happy camping at all. I don't have any more. I don't have to worry about that. I haven't felt kidney pain now for ages. But, the last incident was, remember early last year, when I had the sort of last sort of bit of a final dump, which was a very mild one. But since then, but the issue is, how can I put it? What's his pain threshold? So I've got a high pain threshold. I can tolerate a lot of pain. It doesn't bother me. I just get on with it. I don't sit around bitching and moaning about it. You know, if it's going to be done, it's going to be done. I just get on with it. It's like that's right. You know, it can be really the bad weather, and I'll go out for a walk. I just get on with it. I don't complain. So if he doesn't have a high tolerance, it may take him longer, and I don't know how much stored stuff he's got. Obviously, he'd probably have to take citric acid more often through the day.
Yeah.
He'd definitely be careful the way he did it as well. I would actually get tablets rather than actually using, because if he's going to be using citric acid more often through the day, it's better to get tablets because you don't want to damage your enamel, your tooth enamel.
Yeah.
So that's probably the way to go.
Mm-hmm. He is back to carnivore. I think it's been about 2 weeks now. You know, he did it before, like a year before, but you know, a bunch of stuff happened and he had to fall off the wagon. And he's back now, and he's also on taurine. Got him like 6 grams daily. And he was actually he was like itching on his wrists, and like, I think you're dumping oxalates.
I would say that is exactly, because I had some of that because it was coming out in my skin as well. And but I had not a lot in my skin. It was more in my legs. I was getting in some parts of my legs, sort of like, you know, it was rough. It was rough. It's like, you know, where you it's rougher than sort of the sodium that comes out when you're actually sweating quite severely.
Exactly.
It's much rougher, and that really is a giveaway. And some people get in their feces, which means that they tend to get a lot of gut issues. I didn't. I tend to be, you're either a person who excretes it out of the bile in large amounts, which basically means you get more gut issues and gut inflammation in the colon.
Oh, interesting.
Some people get that, and other people get a lot of kidney related stuff. And I tend to be the kidney type, like my father. So I'm more, and it sort of runs in the family. It seems genetically based, so the oxalates will affect you differently based on those genetics, the way you excrete certain things. So so there is a bit of a difference in that relationship. And those people that do excrete it through the bile in that regard, I tend to say to them to consume far more calcium, like dairy products, in order to bind that sort of stuff to reduce the inflammatory effects in the bowel area in that regard, and use citrates as well, because you want to break that sort of stuff down to sort of reduce it, make it into smaller sort of particulate sizes, which will basically allow it to have less of an inflammatory effect on the enteric system. It's a hit and miss and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, Sveriges, Phoenix, Sveriges is just an idiot. Humans have been consuming salt or sodium. Remember, when it comes, we've been consuming like 10 times the sodium before refrigeration. Never caused us any problems whatsoever. And humans have been basically taking from salt beds, in different environments for a very long time. People fought over salt. Actually, part of the cannibalism in Papua New Guinea was over salt, lack of salt access from the highlands that are very limited in sodium, and it's very important for the body. So for energy production and many other things. So lack of it is a problem. Yeah, so he's just an idiot. I wouldn't waste my time with people like that, honestly. He has no idea what he's talking about. He's just got very strange ideas that come really from, when you're on a low-fat diet and you've got very high carbs in your system, you tend to retain sort of electrolytes far more. Walter Kempner worked that out years ago when he was doing these low-fat diets back in the 1930s. I've done a video on that, covering that. Under those sort of circumstances, you tend to keep enough insulin to hold on to sodium without getting into the high blood pressure situation, as long as you're not engaging the Randall cycle under those circumstances. But that is a very unhealthy way, because there's a lot of things we've talked about, the nutrient deficiencies long term. But in the other direction, you've got the issue of, if you basically are on a low carbohydrate type thing where you're, especially if you're a dumper, because many people are dumpers of sodium, then those people can have a lot of, electrolyte issues, can have a lot of basically heart related issues, palpitations and all sorts of things. And, and also, deranged, mineral homeostasis within the cell and outside the cell. So it's just nonsense what this person says. Now, obviously, if you don't take in, if you get enough meat to get enough taurine to regulate, because he also has a lot of raw sort of stuff, so he'll get more taurine to regulate those electrolytes. You can basically recycle far more, because of the taurine, far more sodium back into the system, even though you're not taking it in. And so that's why he gets away with it.
Yes. No, and you do see him having like fruit juices and stuff like that, because he's trying to compensate for mineral loss.
Yeah. Well, what that does is it engages the Randall cycle, increases actually insulin, which actually causes retention of those things. So that's how he's doing it. He's doing that other part rather than, So look, people do that. This is another reason why Salad Boy went into the fruit and honey and all that sort of stuff. Same bullshit. Different day.
And you know what's funny, because he's really against working out, against fitness. He says, oh no, if you want to live long, you have to live peaceful life. You cannot work out, because if you work out, you are destroying yourself. And you know what this sounds like me? The guy doesn't eat salt. Okay, so if he works out a little bit, he's already going to stress his body because of the sodium loss. And he'll say, oh, you cannot work out a lot.
Which is bullshit, because most people worked hard out when hunting and all sorts of things, and that's hard yakka in very arid environments. But they would drink blood, and that's how they got electrolytes, because the blood is very high in sodium. Mm-hmm. So that's how they basically were able to replenish a lot of the tribal people. They do consume blood. They don't mine salt, but they do consume blood, and that's how they get it. We can actually take in, salt, and then basically convert that in our bodies. Our bodies have the ability to convert, because we used to access, you look at all animals will go to salt beds in rivers and basically access sodium. It's another reason why they go there, to access sodium, because when they're basically on a eating grass and stuff like that, they need more sodium than people like us. We can recycle to some extent, as long as we're getting enough taurine, because we're eating enough meat, fresh meat, where it hasn't been hung up to be lost. Those tribal people have got enough in their diet, they don't need to supplement, and that allows them then to regulate those electrolytes in a very good way. So it's a less of an issue in those people. They don't need to, basically, because remember, fruit and stuff like that is only seasonal. So you can only do it for 1 month. What happens over the next 11 months? You die out if you couldn't regulate your electrolytes. Do you know what I mean? Without electrolyte powders or whatever. It's the taurine that regulates them. It's an osmolyte. It's the key thing. And you also do get enough, some sodium from fresh meat. When you hang meat up, you don't only lose, you do lose some of the electrolytes in those fluids that go out. And that's what reduces some of the electrolytes. Now, why isn't it a problem with potassium and sodium, people will say? Well, for the obvious reason. The potassium requirements are much lower, and the sodium and the magnesium requirements are much lower. Potassium, 192 milligrams. Well, you're taking in about well over 1,000. 1,500, 1,300, depending on how much meat you eat. You can get from 1,300 up to nearly 2,000, milligrams, and you're only excreting about 100, an average person, 192.
Why is the
So
RDA 4,000?
exactly. You're getting in meat more than you excrete. Why is the RDI so high? Well, that's because of carbohydrate metabolism that wastes a lot of potassium and requires more. That's the only reason. You don't really require that amount, and very high levels, because they keep on pushing up the RDIs. If they keep on doing that, they're going to cause people to have heart failures or heart problems.
Yes.
So way too high. As I think Bart said in the video, I think it was last week or the week before, I can't remember now. It was some video where he actually said about how they killed, or was it in one of his videos? It could have been in one of his videos that he made through the week, that he talked about how they use it to kill people, high potassium. And he was basically also in the medical stuff that he was teaching the cardiologists. They basically looked at how they use to basically, use a certain level of thing to turn off to switch the heart off and stuff like
the
that.
death row injection.
Yeah, exactly, that sort of stuff. So he's well aware of that, as well, and many others in the medical fraternity. It's these nutritionists that have no idea what they're talking about. Just because you're depleting it from an inappropriate diet, then recommending people take more can be a bit risky, beyond the physiological limits that we would have had access anyway. So it's just bloody nonsense. Is it possible to achieve some benefits 72 fast with a multiple day? Yeah, it is. 72-hour fast will reset your immune system pretty much. And actually, but you need to follow it in with taurine and with vitamin D to increase the stem cell activation in the bone marrow. So you need to have good vitamin D status, and then pump in quite a bit in the first 3 days in order to basically have greater stem cell activation and more new immune cells being produced, plus taurine that plays a role in both protecting them from senescence and also making sure that in certain things, activating them in your thymus plays a role there, because those stem cells need to be turned into naive T cells. Young people have more naive T cells. Older people have more senescent damaged cells, and they never fast to get rid of those old cells to produce new cells to replace them. So they tend to have more cytokine T cells, and they're the ones that kill you with cytokine storms when they do get activated. Not the stuff you want. You want the naive T cells in the system. So
Never done that.
Yeah. So fasting is a good look. Our ancestors would go for days without eating, and then that was, they weren't constantly going for days, but so I don't recommend constant fasting of this. It's very catabolic, but the occasional here and there, every 3 months or every half a year, it's not a bad thing. I used to do it every half a year. Every 6 months I'd probably do a bit of a reset. Now I just had to do it one earlier, and that was because of that. And then I'll do a 3-day, and I usually now do, because I'm fat adapted, I usually just do dry fast. I don't have to think about electrolytes, water, anything. I just prep for it by taking B vitamins, by taking trace mineral supplements and stuff like that, and then I'll go into it, and then I just cruise beautifully through it, generating my own water from my own fat cells. No dehydration. I had no dark. My urine was still light after 3.5 days. So that will tell you if you're fat adapted. If it's not, you're not fat adapted. Stop it. So stick to the water fast with salt.
Yeah. Never done a 72-hour fast. I need to do it sometime.
The longest fast that I've actually done is 6-day fast. Is the longest fast. That was a water fast, but the longest dry fast that I've done is 3.5 days. I don't recommend beyond 3.5. 3 to 4 days is the longest, because otherwise you start getting trace mineral and And also, is in particular, B vitamin deficiency starts kicking in. And you need the B vitamins as cofactors for a whole lot of enzymes, because still your body's
Yes.
still operating, still needs the enzymes to do a lot of functions throughout the body. So they need cofactors. You still can get fat soluble vitamins from your fat cells, where it's stored as your fat releases into the bloodstream. It also releases vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin retinol, all these things into your bloodstream. So can your liver, the stored retinol that it's got. So that will get released. So you don't have to worry about that. It's just the trace minerals, and because you don't want it coming from the bones, so you only want the trace minerals, and you want basically the B vitamins. That is the only stuff you should be supplementing for long fasting periods. Anyway, yes, you would. Look, a lot of people do nowadays. It's one thing that a lot of people do. A lot of people, even on sad diets, don't realize a lot of their bone issues, their arthritis,
Yes.
their osteo and all that are all related to oxalates. Remember I did that video where I showed you the crystals inside the bones, the oxalate crystals? Well, if you actually check most old people, they've got a lot of oxalate crystals throughout their bones. A lot of these, and if it's in joints, it means that there's a lot of wear and tear and damage from the oxalates, and it takes time. And in some areas, like in the back, because you don't have a lot of blood circulation in the back, in the spine,
Yep.
that spine can actually sustain a lot of damage from oxalates, and it's very hard to heal and repair. I'm still trying to biohack that. I still haven't worked out the best solution for spinal improvements. Some things like taurine and stuff like that will help, but there's got to be other ways. How do I get more blood and perfusion into those areas in a safe way? Because, I still haven't worked it out. I'm still struggling with that one. I'm still trying to find a solution to fixing, because that's another issue that a lot of people have, a lot of accumulated. A lot of back pain comes from oxalates in crystals inside those vertebrae. So it is a friggin' problem.
My mom, she has a bit of low bone mineral density, and she constantly complains of low back pain. And the issue is she used to do a lot of those cleanses, vegetable juices, beet juice, kale juice. So I suspect that she's like dealing with oxalate issues. Fairly certain of that.
Yep,
and
very much so.
It took me a long while just to get through her head that she needed certain things to be able to recover from that. And another thing is that she really likes chocolate, so only makes things worse.
That doesn't help. I don't know. Actually, M. Kerr's taurine controls fluoride retention or removal. It definitely doesn't cause retention. Now, we do know that iodine and selenium can clear out of the thyroid fluoride and other halogens. So we do know that. We do know that taurine through the liver can actually help detox, or part of that detoxification process of eliminating those ions, the fluoride ions, out of the, through the gall stuff, and remove them in that regard. So yes, it does help in that regard, but the rate at which it actually does, I don't know. Definitely does not retain them, but it removes them. But at the rate it does, and what the sort of dosage you would require in combination with iodine and selenium, I know that the selenium and iodine stuff, I've already talked about it in one of my videos, so that's covered. But I'm not sure what the dosage would be with the taurine through the bioelimination. So this is a guess. It's only a guess of possibly about up to 6 grams and at maximum, 4 grams at minimum for that sort of side. But I'm not going to say, because I haven't researched it, basically.
Yeah, but this is a bit of an issue, because I've been looking at people doing like iodine loading tests. And look, we know that iodine and selenium will help. But what seems to happen is that you can get rid of the bromine quite easily.
Yep.
But people do the iodine loading test, and they'll see that they, even though it has gotten better, their fluorine in their body, it's still there. It's really hard to get rid of because it's really electronegative. So it really
Yes.
stays stuck inside your body. And I'm
Yeah.
still trying to figure
Yeah.
out if there's a way to accelerate that.
The only thing that I can think of is this is where, I usually say as a safe thing, 4 to 6 grams of taurine. Remember the ions, in terms of electroneutrality, how it's actually regulated, the ions to maintain electroneutrality at the cell membrane, that taurine plays a role.
Mm-hmm.
It can also make sure that there is a certain level of homeostasis of certain minerals, so it fixes mineral metabolism. That's why hemochromatosis sort of normalizes with ion metabolism and stuff like that. So it has all these things. We know it improves ion metabolism status, because it was used in like the Gaza Strip by the doctors there that worked out in the University of the Gaza Strip in their studies how to help the young girls who had anemia, how to improve through taurine, because they couldn't get more meat into that environment because of the war situations that exists. So they were using taurine to basically improve iron metabolism. So it's a good regulator of all the minerals, including fluoride and all that. I have no research to back this up, what I'm going to say, but I suspect that enough taurine probably will regulate, like it does with all the other ions. It will regulate fluoride as well and probably bring homeostasis in the body, because still need some fluoride, but not a lot. But what the dosage is exactly, I don't know, because I haven't researched it. So if I had the problem of too much fluoride and stuff like that, now I've taken all fluoride out of my, that's why I use Evian water for my coffees and all that. I basically, even my toothpaste is fluoride free, all this sort of stuff. So I've eliminated a lot of that sort of out of my environment in that regard. But it's something I probably need to research, to really look at what are the because you'd have to go. There's probably some research that shows excretion rates, how much comes out, how much can be bound, and there's probably some research on the effects of changing the levels of taurine, and then from there you could actually work out, okay, this is the excretion rate, this is the amount that actually can regulate and force out or urinate or whatever, and sort of work out exactly the amounts, how many milligrams. It'll be probably in a rat study, and work out, then calculate that to human. So a 70 kilo person, how much would it be equivalent is what I usually do. Most of my recommendations are for a 70 kilo person. Obviously, somebody's higher, it should take a bit more. So I would, I'd still have to research it to work out exactly in that regard. Yeah. So it's a lot. Yeah, it's something that I need to look into. I've talked about, but I haven't looked into. Does taurine make water treated safe for drinking? No. This works in the body with the detox pathways and all that. It has nothing that you just can't put in water and make water safe. No, do not drink inappropriate water. It should be treated properly before drinking. Not at all. Oh, that's with the the fluoride. Yeah, it is a regulator of all the different ions, both negative and positive ions in the body. That's why it regulates all this and brings homeostasis. It's a regulator. It sorts out all these fluids, and it sorts out all the ions that move in the fluids and inside the cells of the body and all that. That's why every cell has taurine. It is one of the most ancient things, as I've talked about, how it regulated pressure and the different minerals that could go inside and outside the cell in the primitive, around those vents where they got all the sulfur, and they were able to create their own taurine from that sulfur from those vents in the deep oceans. But when it comes to the exact with fluoride, I haven't looked into it. I probably need to look into it and work something out. For people. Taurine isn't disinfection, but it helps improve your stomach acidity. Yeah, it regulates it. It basically, if it's too high, it brings it down. If it's too low, it brings it up. It basically regulates it for the right level it should be. It really, it improves the acidity. But what I should really say is so if you need to break down amino acids, you need to have a pH of 1 or 1.5. It will take it there. So it's not as if, I mean, you still need chloride, sodium chloride, the chloride part to produce, this sort of stuff. But the actual proton pumps, what they need is a regulator, and taurine regulates the proton pumps so they actually produce the right amount to do the job. And so your top sphincter can seal off. That's what they do. It's a regulator. It regulates things. It regulates motility. But even though it regulates motility, you can take other things in that are contraindicated that can actually derange motility. And so counteract. It's a bit like, you take the blood pressure meds and you're taking taurine, and the taurine isn't fixing things because the counteracting effect of the blood pressure meds. You sort of need to, as you increase the one, you need to take away the other so you can actually allow the other to take over the role of regulating. That's the sort of thing. It's the same thing in the gut. If you're still putting things contraindicated, and your motility isn't adjusting, is because maybe you're taking in glyphosate, you're damaging your gut microbiome. The microbiome is still deranged. It can't, because you're attacking it from one end, trying to reset it from the other end, but you're failing because it's a fight between the shit that you're putting in with trying to counterbalance. It's like, drinking alcohol and taking basically choline. Yes, choline will export fat, will reduce the amount of fat that will build up, but you're still going to get some fat from build up into the liver, not severe because of the choline, sort of counteracting it. But at the end of the day, you really need to take away the poison to stop that from happening. So it's like you're putting the two to compete. So it's that sort of side. You're welcome. I like to nuance my things. That's why it takes a bit longer for me to explain things and all that, because I don't want you walking away thinking, I didn't really understand. Now I've got a better understanding of this sort of stuff. That's the whole purpose, for the way. So it is Harry time, and that's how I operate. But you do get more deeper, better understanding of different things. Yeah, that's true. And I still do some of my orthodox fasting as well. I'm not as diligent as I used to be, but so anyway, Dad does it a bit more diligently than me, but anyway. Yes, it will happen in your lifetime, at least. Thoughts on German new medicine? That's the sort of psychological stuff and all that. I have heard about it. I haven't looked into it. It's probably got some benefit. I think that the claims that people make are way beyond the therapeutics, and I know that some people have tried it. Some people have tried it, and it hasn't worked for them. If you've got really severe physiological issues that need to be addressed, they need to be addressed appropriately. You can't be putting garbage down your throat, deranging the regulation of your gut, having high histamines and stuff like that. No psychological stuff is going to fix it. Now, obviously, it does help indirectly. How? By, increasing the parasympathetic and lowering the sympathetic nervous system. But you know what also does that? Taurine can also increase the parasympathetic and lower through GABA-A. So do you need to pay these people to do psychological things to calm you down? I can do some yoga, I can do some taurine and get the same effect. So do I need this method? Plus it has a whole lot of other physiological benefits. So I'm not poo-pooing it, but I don't think they are claiming things way beyond what it's used for. It's about like yoga and stuff like that. Yes, it does have some benefits. It can calm you down. It can reduce your cortisol levels. You can, improve your, some of your functioning of your body, but it's not a panacea. It doesn't fix everything. If you've got an underlying xenoestrogen loads, all sorts of other things, toxins coming in and all that, not going to sort them out. you still need to basically get out of that environment or clear it up or detox that with appropriate nutrition and supplementation to fix those things. So has some benefits, but I think they are reading far too much into it. And there are alternatives that are much cheaper and better and work much better as well, that work with the human physiology. We didn't need, our tribal ancestors didn't need, German new medicine to basically fix their guts or whatever. What they did was they basically had a species appropriate diet. They sat out in the sun, they earthed themselves and basically didn't need any crap and had good social relationships. And they were better off for it. Happy, contented, like the Messiah and many others that Mary came across. So I think that's a better approach. It's on iHerb. It's a free form sulfur amino acid. You don't mind Lukey throwing it into the actual for me rather than actually looking for it again. So
yes, let me see.
Yeah. So because I've only got about 10 minutes, I want to quickly go through and then call it quits because I have to be somewhere else organising what I'm going to be eating later tonight. Tap water build up in body like fluoride. A lot of things can, but if you've got good detox capacity, you should be able to clear a lot of that sort of stuff out in that regard. But yeah, it is a problem. Chlorine is a problem as well and stuff like, and that's why I limit my tap water exposure. So that's why I do that. Unfortunately, a lot of things are problematic in that. It's called unpasteurized German beer. Oh, thanks, AG, for the comedy.
I have specific tastes.
HD, get a room. Von der Planet about salt. It's concentrated sodium. When it goes into the body, it isolates into pure sodium, so it goes around clumpy together and blocking up cells. Absolute nonsense, mate. Absolute nonsense.
Doesn't understand chemistry. Dissolved salt exactly. is dissolved.
Exactly.
It's ions.
Exactly. And basically they have a certain ionic charge. All ions have an ionic charge. And they go through receptor sites and they are regulated by taurine. So it's complete nonsense. He doesn't know. And at the kidney level, if you've got excess, you'll excrete them out. We used to consume 10 times the sodium in the past, and nobody had health problems back in the earlier days when they were doing that. So it's nonsense. Believe me, mate, it is nonsense. It's just these modern day gurus. Everybody's got their little stupid things. I can show you examples of multiple generations of multiple people eating 10 times more sodium. And the Japanese and Koreans to this day over salt and eat 10 shitloads more sodium than anybody else and have lower blood pressure and no issues whatsoever. So it's absolute nonsense, believe me. But they also get more taurine in their diet because they eat a lot of fish.
Yep.
So they actually regulate everything properly. It's sort of all the studies are done on sad dieters who don't regulate their sodium levels and electrolytes properly. That's why, and have more water retention and stuff like that from high insulin due to the Randall cycle. So, yeah, a lot of people look at that information and then make conclusions, reductionist conclusions, without understanding the complex physiology. When you change certain parameters, other things change. Yeah, that requires a bit of usage of the mind, which unfortunately this guy didn't because he was a bit of a, and accidentally did he get a few things right, and it was all by accident.
Yeah,
it was just another bloody hippie that basically literally fell on some of this sort of stuff. I'm not kidding you. Any thoughts on mast cell activation syndrome, Jabber long hauled? You know what actually sorts out, mast cell activation? Our dear friend taurine. You should know that. I've talked about it all the time. Sorts out histamine through inflammasome. It's the mechanism, So, yeah. But obviously, sometimes these things can take a bit long to press T for taurine. This is the reason why these tribal people don't have these issues. You don't see COVID in these areas. You don't see any long haul effects or any of this sort of stuff. It's not accidental. It's because these people are eating species appropriately and out in the sun and earthing themselves, and they have less of these issues. We're in a toxic environment. We have a lot of bloody issues. Anyway, when doing it, and it's, when I talk about taurine, it's a case. What I'm saying is I'm saying you need to eat a species appropriate diet, because that's really what it is. I know that the modern food supply has actually diminished taurine and other nutrients inside the meat. The way it's actually stored, the way it's actually handled, and stuff like that. And that's why I say that you may need to either eat a bit more seafood to cover that area, or the other way of doing it is to supplement a bit to cover the losses that would have happened through the production process of the slaughterhouse, of the hanging up for months and storage and transport and all that sort of stuff. That's what I'm sort of to cover that sort of side, because people are getting on and still having electrolyte issues because they're eating supermarket meat that's much lower, overcooking it, having much depleted fluids, less taurine in their intake than what they would have if that was freshly slaughtered. As a consequence, they're not getting enough taurine to regulate these things that they would have got from the natural ancestral food. That's what we're talking about. So when I talk about taurine, I'm making a case of trying to mimic ancestral food that we ate or tribal people eat. That's what I'm trying to make a case for. Okay, to kefir. When doing a second fermentation of kefir with fruit, I wouldn't use fructose, which would this essentially be a low carb kefir, or I definitely wouldn't, because we don't want all the fiber and other stuff. If you're going to use any sugar, so use either a milk sugar, use a milk sugar, much better, for your kefir. That's what I use, and let that be used as the milk sugar. I'd even use raw sugar, a very small amount of raw sugar, rather than basically fruit, the fiber, the anti-nutrients and all that.
Exactly.
You don't want to put that stuff in there, where with raw sugar, yes, you're getting that for the bacteria to use, but you're not getting any of the anti-nutrients. So it's actually much safer to use raw sugar or milk
molasses.
Sugar. Or milk sugar. So, in that regard, one of those, and I said, gets all the salt stuff. Yeah, look, they're both cockwombles. I've got no idea about human physiology. Absolutely none. Good for you. Good for you. Some of the well water can, because it's basically from rain sources, can be low in deuterium, can be light water, as it's called. But you have to check. As long as it's from rainwater, if that well water is coming from rainwater and built up, then it can be lower in deuterium. It depends on the source. I definitely will enjoy. I always do. It'll be a meat frenzy, my dear. It'll be a meat frenzy. Yes, I probably should jump in the Zoom. Maybe if I get a chance tonight, we'll see. Depending on when I get back. Yes, do press T. Also press the L button as well, the like button as well. Do press both.
No. But that's just perfect. Non-fungible taurine. HD is amazing.
He likes the comedy. That's why we like him here. How long does it take to heal skin using taurine? It's a combination. It's really a carnivore diet because you need fat soluble vitamins. You need to also you also need a low dose vitamin E, a jarrow vitamin E. You don't mind dropping it in the low dose vitamin E because you may have stored from plant oils in the past. You may have fats stored from plant oils, and those fats incorporate in, and they are very, very vulnerable to oxidation from UV radiation. So that's where some of this healing happens. So once you actually stabilize those with a low dose vitamin E, you need to do it for about 6 months. And at a minimum, if you've actually just if you've been on a vegan type diet, but you haven't been exposed to too much seed oils. If you've, on the other hand, you've been exposed to lots of seed oils throughout your life, then you may require to do this low dose anywhere between 4 to 7 years, depending on the level of exposure to seed oils. I had to do it to 11 to 7 years, and that's because I had massive exposure to most people that have moderate, probably about 4 years. If they have very light, that means most of it's coming from like nuts and stuff like that. Then a lot of those omega-6s, then maybe they only need 6 months to a year, in that regard. So, and that's the low dose vitamin E that Lukey will put into the actual thing. A combination UV protection also from niacin. You find niacin in things like pork and also tuna, a number of the seafoods.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another very important nutrient for skin protection and skin healing. The other thing is the fat soluble vitamins, which you should be getting enough if you're eating enough eggs and meat fats and stuff like that, and dairy fats. You should be getting enough retinol for that part, and that regulates the collagen degrading enzymes that are produced in your liver that basically can, due to inflammatory processes, can upregulate and accumulate in your skin, and that is actually what causes the derangements of skin collagen. So your skin collagen is, most collagen derangements around the body are an overexpression of matrix metalloproteinase, MMPs, period. I've been talking about this from the first time I started on YouTube. Some people are picking up on it now, are starting to look at the literature. But that's really what it is. And that is regulated by fat soluble vitamins. And the person who understood that quite clearly was a person called Weston A. Price. He understood fat soluble vitamins regulate collagen throughout the body, and that makes the difference. He understood it. He didn't know about Activator X, what it was exactly. He hypothesized that it was another fat soluble vitamin, and he just called it Activator X. We call it vitamin K2 now. So that's another important element as well. So it's a synergy of D, vitamin E, vitamin K2, which is the menoquinone 4 version. You can actually find in a number of dairy products like brie, camembert, Gouda, eggs, and stuff like that. Or yes, which is important. And definitely getting when it comes to taurine, at a minimum at least 4 grams, and split it. So you get 2 in the evening, 2 in the middle of the day, or depending on what a couple of hours before you do your workout. It'll actually give you better results as well. So you might as well get the benefit combining it, for the myostatin inhibition effect. Recall some talking about glycation as from hormesis. What? Are they ridiculous? Raw honey compared. Yeah, well, taurine and methionine and all the other sulfur amino acids, they do have an anti-glycating effect. A number of amino acids do have an anti-glycating effect. Taurine probably has a much higher, and it does 2 things. It reduces glycation, but also corrects misfolded proteins. So it actually will, because glycation can actually cause misfolded proteins, and misfolded proteins is what is called aging in the body. It's the misfolding, the derangement of collagen or the proteins. So that's why taurine in the folding of proteins actually helps the skin and everything else as well. The collagen to fold properly for those proteins. So that's where it's as I said, a Swiss Army knife of the body. Fair enough. Yeah, that's a supplement. G'day, Dylan. Saladino has been somewhat downplaying the role of sugar in teeth decay and all that. Yeah, look. Yeah, we know. Yeah. I mean, fat-soluble vitamins do play a role. That's true. We can't deny that. But, adding more contraindicated garbage down your throat isn't going to bloody help, because it actually increases. Sugar will basically increase the growth of certain bacteria that increase acid in this, that actually causes damage to the enamel. So why would you take that? When you eat species appropriate, you actually get a more alkaline base in the, and less of that sort of stuff. So you get bacteria like the Reuteres and stuff like that are actually, and certain other strains that actually grow because of the animal-based foods. So the complete opposite. That's why you see tribal people, no dental problems. They never see a dentist in their life until they start eating sugar, until they start eating refined kibble and seed oils. That's when things go to hell in a handbasket. Actually, or as Wesley Price called them, the foods of civilization. So, God, what can one say? He's really lost the plot, hasn't he? He's really...
No, it's absurd. Like,
it's sad. It is sad.
It is sad. No, his shilling for sugar is just incredible. Like, I've been calling him Paul Shiladino because
exactly.
But he has even said that the red blood cycle isn't a big issue, but he works out a lot.
Exactly. He's basically like the people in the past which consumed a small amount, 2/3 animal foods because it was seasonal. We had no refrigeration. 1/3 and mostly seasonal of certain plants and all that. And as a consequence, we're also very physically active. We underate as well because we couldn't, only the rich could afford a lot of the food back then. Most people were undernourished as well. We know that globally. Even the Japanese had a saying, eat until you're 80% full, because that meant everybody else had got an opportunity to eat as well, so don't overeat because you need to consider the others. That's why they had that. It's sort of a polite way, but that's where it came from, because undernourishment. So he has, oh God, he has no idea, that guy. Really, absolutely, really. Yeah. Cellar Boy tells that fake liquid gold with a real being unpassed. Yeah, I know. He's just, yeah. Oh, God.
HD has got the clown juice going on. That
where do you friggin' start? Where do you friggin' start with that? Cockwomble. Males have more tooth decay than females because they are sinking on honey on huts. Don't look. Most of the honey is seasonal. Now, she did notice that the Maasai had no tooth issues, but some of the Hadzas had. But also at the same time, there were also some of them also had access to refined sugars that they were getting from some of the tourists. So that's a bit confounded. So I don't know enough in that regard. And when you look at honey, they actually eat it in a honeycomb. So in the honeycomb, that's basically fat and protein made, and you only get a small bits of honey in between. Remember, when you extract honey, you take it out and you throw away the protein and fat of the honeycomb. They eat it as with the honeycomb, so it actually is not a sweet, and at the same time, they're getting quite a lot of protein and fat in there, and they're not getting a lot of honey in large quantities, a few grams, as Mary noticed. So it's not excessive in that regard. Now, the ones that, like one of the chiefs of one of the Hadza group, he had a lot of problems with his teeth, but also he was pre-diabetic. But because he was preventing others, which was probably a good thing for the other tribal members, from getting all the tourist snacks. He was the chief. I'm going to dominate all the tourist snacks. And basically, when she checked him, because she was checking all the massa and all that with ketone sticks and blood sugar, she was doing all this sort of stuff, which was great because she was doing it all day long, and realized that these people, females, males, kids, are all in this low-grade ketosis. They were just slipping in and out based on when they were eating and all that. But when they weren't eating, they were in this low grade continuously throughout the day, which was very interesting, and all of them very similar. But with some of the Hudders, as she pointed out, that had access to foods of civilization, that was a different story. Those people basically, some of them, especially one of the chiefs, was really bad, had a bit of a pot belly, plus was pre-diabetic. And that was because he was taking all the tourists on tour. He was the leader of that tour, of the tour company, as being the chief, basically, and taking the majority of the snacks that he was getting from the tourists. Yes, that's the real story. Something the rest is just BS that people come up with. Has not gone full greens are bad, but weed through, bro. Okay. He's weird. Let me just put it that way. He's gone. He's sort of now. He's going probably having a midlife crisis, and he's acting as a hippie down in Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, yes.
And he's a guru hippie now, charging people $1,000 a pop. Friggin' hell. And he's trained in psychology and all that, so he probably knows how to manipulate people as well. So.
Oh God. The ancestral lifestyle. Give me a break. You're eating all those man-made fruit.
Exactly. Here's your fruit, your man-made fruit, and here's your, here's your honey, and
we get like fruit two weeks out of the year over here, and it's like sour berries, and the guy is eating like bananas and shit. I'm like, oh God.
Oh, does he? The Captain Kirk speech. Oh, fuck. Probably that's one thing that Frankie was right. He's a bit of a copycat. He's probably right about that. He's sort of, he has to be cool. He doesn't have his own sense of personality. Luke is Luke. I'm Harry Serpanos. I've got my own, I'm original. So is he. I don't have to be like anyone else. I mean, we comically recreate others. That's a comical thing, in that regard, but we don't become them or behave like them. Yes, this guy's got plenty of issues if he's doing things like that, trying to mimic other people. Yes. Maybe insecurity issues and a whole lot of other things. Maybe he needs to do a psych thing on him. But anyway, yeah. You probably would fail that as well.
He is his own best patient.
Yes, exactly. That's it. Nice one, Luke. Actually, his own best patient. Yeah, and you know what? He's mistreating his own best patient himself.
Yeah, it's misconduct
of the highest order. Yes. And as Lord Edward Ted would say, bollocks.
Exactly.
Anyway, there you go. There's my mimic of Ted. I suspect I'll get a phone call from Ted complaining that I'm mimicking him, and following his pattern of speech as well. So
yes, because he invented it,
Exactly. Ted will not be happy.
Oh God, the lore is getting more complex each day.
It's becoming really weird. Some of these characters have, you really know that there is no consistency, no logic to these people, because they tend to go down to this airy fairy, and then there's this kumbaya sort of stuff, and you're going, really, okay, he's really out there, he's floating away, so yes, some of these people are really, I mean, people, I think people need to have a good foundation. They need to be well grounded. And unfortunately, some of these characters, like Sverige, like Salad Boy, and Frankie, and many of the others, they're not grounded. They're really just floating out there. They're really sort of, all over the place. They really need to take a look at themselves and realize that, they need to approach life a bit differently. Anyway, baboons.
Baboon.
Guy.
Oh god.
Nice one, Bojack. Anyway, guys, I'm going to piss off out of here because I've been requested and called, and I need to reply back. Yes, so I need to sort things out.
I look at the clock just now, and I realize what time is it?
Tick, tick. Yeah. What time is it?
Oh,
What time is it? Is it in Brazil at the moment, Lukey?
15 minutes before 1 a.m.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly. Shouldn't someone be in bed? Young Lukey?
Possibly, yeah. Quite possibly. It's being overcast all day. My circadian rhythm is messed up because there's no sun.
Exactly. Now, on your way out, don't forget, this is one of Bart's, I'm stealing one of his comments. On the way out, don't forget to hit the like button, So, well, it's good stuff. Why not use it? Yes, very, very important for the mitochondria. Very important antioxidant for the mitochondria. It's what actually heals the mitochondria. So, yes, you can take as much sorrel, enough things like, your fisetin to kill off the old stuff, and you can take all that. But in the end, you've got trillions and trillions of cells. Sorrel, all these other things are not going to make up for lack of sleep. Taurine and all that, they're not going to make up for lack of sleep. You still need to get good sleep. You still need to block out those blue frequencies, blue-green frequencies. Yes. Anyway, we're out of here, and we're everybody, North American people and South American people and Central American people, get to fucking bed. Anyway, you can always watch the remainder tomorrow. Well, anyway, you've been here, so bad luck. I'm out of here. See you guys.
Stay well, everyone.